This magician is simply not scientific. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Meat. He's real meat. I saw that in the red brick house. The flames were everywhere. But the extremely rich holy light bloomed. It was more than 10 times thicker than the holy aura in the previous flame. At this time, his connection with the dark sun altar in the house was blocked by the burning holy light. The holy aura of the flame was obviously very weak. Why? It suddenly became so rich and heavy. And he is a shadow wizard. No. Slowly turned around and looked at the shadow wizard who walked out of the shadow. He is not a shadow wizard. The point is not his wizard identity, but Arthurson took a deep breath and became more cautious. How did he know that I was connected to the altar, and he used an effective method to cut off my connection with the altar? What's more, he can obviously move more conveniently in the shadows. Why did he come out? A series of doubts surged into Arthurson's mind. He seems to be waiting for something. With this in mind, Arthurson became more and more aware of the bad news. He gathered his perception power and looked at the thick and lingering shadow behind the shadow wizard. He just looked over. The shadow wizard's voice sounded. "Oh. Have you finally found something wrong?" Tucker smiled faintly. This Krypton gold boy from the wizard family looks very powerful. But under layers of protection, he probably hasn't been beaten by society. Tucker's simple test has confirmed this matter. When Tucker threw the kerosene bomb into the house just now, the ball-shaped spear of shaping light and the kerosene bomb were perfectly linked under Tucker's precision, correction, control. The inner light and the outer flame, plus the kerosene bomb itself, contains a little bit of light. Some of the kerosene bombs that have not been dispersed, the guy can't feel the things hidden in them at all. The combination of witchcraft can have many unexpected effects. And now it perfectly restrains the connection between the Dark Sun altar and the genius of the Dark Sun Church. The ability of the condensed life plating is really enviable. So, your condensed life plating or my light shaping spear, which one is more powerful? Tucker waved his hand lightly, and the shadow was dispelled. There were 7 or 8 light-shaping spears appearing behind Tucker. Each of them contained extremely amazing sacred light and aura. For a moment, it was as if light had reappeared in the world. Impossible. How could there be light hidden in the depths of the shadows, and such a rich light? Feeling the rich and heavy power that could almost compete head-on with the dark sun he controlled, Arthurson's heart was trembling slightly. He was not afraid of fighting against the light. But the other party's completely unreasonable and even unscientific means. This was too shocking to his worldview. Whose shadow wrapped the holy light inside? Can a shadow wrapped in the holy light still be called a shadow? In fact, Tucker waved his hand, and a light-shaping spear fell into his hand. As long as you have a detailed and precise grasp of the power of witchcraft, light and darkness can go with it. Tucker raised his hand and aimed at Arthurson, the A-level genius of the Dark Sun Church. Bullet. Light spear. Tucker has put a lot of effort into the linkage between the bullet tentacles and the light-shaping spear. Bang! The gunshot sounded, and then it ended. The sound of 2 layers of penetration sounded. At this time, Arthurson, who had moved more than 10 meters away and fell in the afterimage, had a solemn expression like a stone sculpture, engraved on his face. Fast, too fast. He knew the power of the light spear containing the sacred breath. But the more powerful the witchcraft is, the more effective the corresponding second stage casting can be. Even if a certain witchcraft linkage is completed, it is only enhanced to a certain extent. But the second stage witchcraft linkage of the opponent's light spear, it's completely outrageous. He has already felt the opponent's attack. At the same time, he used the dark sun to pull out the phantom to avoid the opponent's attack. But it was useless. The opponent's spear seemed to be aimed at the position where he landed. He and the opponent's spear had completed the intersection. The 2 layers of life plating with extremely strong protective ability were gone. Dark Sun. As Arthurson retreated, he activated the Dark Sun source energy. Groups of twisted black spheres rose rapidly. Every time a black sphere rose, Tucker felt that the air around him became thicker. Some kind of powerful regional restriction witchcraft. Although he didn't understand its principle, Tucker could see its characteristics. And he seemed to lack the means to resist this type of spell. If he didn't have a way to resist, he wouldn't resist. Tucker carried the slightly sticky air. He raised his hand again. Bullet, light spear. Bang! The powerful light power penetrated again. Swish! The light-shaping anchor penetrated the 2 layers of life plating again. He was no match at all. At this time, Arthurson completely gave up resistance. His only goal now was to return to the hut and return to the altar. As long as he returned to the altar and used the dark sun power there, he could make up for the life plating. He would be invincible. The power of light blocked his connection with the dark sun altar. He could not use the power of dark sun to go directly inside. Run back, and you will win. Arthurson charged towards the hut. And how could Tucker, who deliberately lured him out, let him go back? Bloodthorn vine. A vine that had been ambushed in the courtyard of the house suddenly flew out. Snap with a dull sound. Arthurson was pulled back several meters, and his way back was also blocked. Arthurson, who was repelled, pressed with one hand, and the dark sun meteorite fell. The black meteorite and flames instantly submerged the vine. Tucker suppressed the bullet tentacle spell frame that had begun to vibrate, and completed the spell linkage with the spear of shaping light again. This guy is really weak. During the attack, Tucker couldn't help but sigh. From the first time he saw Arthurson, the Krypton Gold Boy of the wizard family, Tucker knew that this guy basically put all his attributes on defense. After all, this guy has an extremely rare A-level extraordinary talent, life plating. He is naturally able to fight and resist. He has also refined the sheep transformation technique. His main focus is survival and control. It must be said that his thinking is quite clear. If it were any other wizard, Tucker would be able to teach him a lesson in a minute. But this Arthurson withstood Tucker's tons of output. And this Arthurson is quite smart. Knowing that Tucker is flexible enough, he tried and found that he could not cause effective damage and control to Tucker, so he immediately went back to the fountain. As long as he returned to the altar, he could get the supplement of the Dark Sun's power. Restore his life plating. This guy, who can get to his current position in the Evil Gat organization, is really something. Raising his arm, Tucker wanted to condense the bullet, light spear again. But looking at Arthurson, who had passed through the flames and was about to approach the house, it might be too late to use the Bloodthorn vine again. Tucker shot at the red brick house with flames rising. This was just an ordinary bullet tentacle shot. But with this shot, the light-shaping spears and balls in the house that were emitting holy light seemed to have been triggered. Boom! A deafening explosion broke out. The burning holy aura was dazzling, like an angel descending. It almost ripped off the roof of the hut. And Arthurson plunged in fiercely. Chapter 52 Steam Collar, got it. Arthurson plunged into the light like a large rock when explosives exploded in a blasting site. He was blown to the ground and rolled over more than 10 meters. But even so, this guy still didn't die. He just showed his thick skin and flesh. However, although Arthurson didn't die at this time, he was almost dead. As a powerful 2-star holy witchcraft, Tucker invested so many resources in it that he even exceeded his own level. The shape-shaping and strengthening of the spear of light, the explosion and strengthening of holy power, burning, penetration, etc. And all these investments turned into burning holy light. Completed the baptism of redemption of the evil and filth of the Dark Sun Church. Arthurson lay on the lawn baptized by the aftermath of the explosion, his body in a certain weird posture, showing a state of twisting up and down, with a certain artistic element, but not much. The life plating has been exhausted. The slightly weird wizard robe was lifted by the air wave, but it was not damaged, but unexpectedly strong. Arthurson's skin exposed to the air was severely burned. Some black granulations and blood-eating flesh worms broke free from his skin and swayed wildly in the air. Distortion and loss of control, gently squirming. The 2 things on his shoulders, which should be called Dark Sun candles, held on to his last breath. Tucker stretched out his hand and grabbed, and a 1-meter-long, 2-pointed sharp-edged spear of plastic light fell into Tucker's hand. There were even 3 plastic light spears behind Tucker. Although the opponent was in Tucker's field of vision, he was in a semi-faint state and was in a defenseless state. The opponent's defenselessness did not delay Tucker's full defense. Holding the plastic light, the shadow of the corner of Tucker's wizard robe fell, and then the shadow tentacles extended along the ground. The tentacles of the shadow power were extremely dexterous under Tucker's control. The shadow tentacles clung to Arthurson's 2 twisted arms for a moment. When he pulled it back again, Arthurson's ring staff and storage bracelet had been removed by Tucker. Glancing at the ring staff in his hand, it was just as Tucker saw. This is an Earth Rune Ring Staff. Even the rune power is stronger than the Shadow Rune power he can afford. With such a ring staff, it can naturally reduce a certain amount of damage. With a life plating, the defense ability is directly maxed out. The Earth Rune Ring Staff played an indispensable role in carrying so many waves of output from Tucker. Put the Earth Rune Ring Staff away carefully. Tucker took a deep breath and looked at the extraordinary storage bracelet. Isn't the reason why Tucker ventured here just for the expensive, rare, and current version of the answer to the Steam Age era? Open the storage bracelet, and the touch perception penetrates it. After a moment. Huh? Tucker breathed a sigh of relief and smiled a little. Finally got it, it's worth the trip. Put the storage bracelet away. Tucker looked up at the A-level genius Arthurson of the Dark Sun Evil God Church, whose trajectory was completely disordered. The trend of distortion and loss of control was becoming more and more obvious. Tucker licked the bag first to prevent this guy from distorting and losing control. After all, the Dark Sun power contained in Arthurson's body was quite terrifying and amazing. Once the distortion was out of control, the bracelet and storage bracelet would be completely contaminated. Tucker was not an alchemist, let alone a priest. There was no way to purify these contaminated items. Now that the bag was licked, it was fine. Love to change or not, don't change. Just when Tucker was wondering whether to kill Arthurson first or solve the altar over there first. Gah. Gah. An undead raven quickly landed on the fence of the lawn not far away. Then, gah. 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 A large number of undead ravens fell one after another while spinning. The gaze from the undead ravens fell at this moment. That is, there are few crows that are not very obedient. They landed near the wall, facing the wall, and their faith blossomed. I don't know if Lord Aubrey has noticed the abnormality of these crows. Tucker thought secretly. In all directions, the sights of almost all the undead ravens converged on the same point. The undead ravens looked at the body lying on the ground, which had begun to expand regularly. Then they looked at the collapsed altar that had been baptized by the explosion and had begun to permeate the power of the Dark Sun. Finally, the undead ravens looked at Tucker. The situation over there in the tower is a bit complicated. Things are far from over, and it may even be just the beginning. First, deal with the altar, then deal with the deformed guy, and come back as soon as possible. After leaving these words, gah 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 gah, a large number of undead ravens flapped their wings and left quickly. When Tucker withdrew his gaze from the undead ravens, bang bang, bang bang, the sound of heavy knocking on the heart sounded. Not far away, Arthurson's body and heart beat dully and strangely. Tucker, who was not far away, was also affected, and his heart beat violently. Without hesitation, Tucker ignored Arthurson, who was about to distort and lose control. Instead, he quickly ran towards the Dark Sun altar. As he approached, Tucker quickly condensed one light-shaping spear, ball after another. Compared with the sharpness, penetration of the spear, form, the holy light characteristics of the ball, form and the extreme bloom, explosion, of the sacred breath have a better effect. Fortunately, Tucker had invested heavily in the 2 Starlight Witchcraft light-shaping spear before. At this time, he was able to condense one after another like making sausages. Tucker's original Dark Sea also supported the consumption of a large amount of source energy. Bang! Tucker threw more than a dozen light-shaping spear balls onto the damaged Dark Sun altar. He quickly opened up a distance of hundreds of meters. Tucker jumped into the depths of the shadows and waited for a while. Bang! Bang! The beating heart suddenly converged. Then, Arthurson, who was sitting on the ground, was strangely suspended without force. The muscles all over his body began to swell, and a black metallic luster emerged. The 2 dark candles on his shoulders were also blooming at an accelerated speed, like 2 lanterns. At this moment, the female human face on the chest of his wizard robe, which was stretched out, suddenly opened. The dark pupils were empty and lifeless. But at this time, Tucker felt a stinging pain in his eyes when he looked at Arthurson. Tucker had seen all kinds of weird situations. But this situation in front of him undoubtedly gave Tucker a lot of weird knowledge. The power of those weird evil gods cannot be explained by supernatural means. Even the category of supernatural mysticism may not be able to explain it. Just as Tucker expected, the initially deformed Arthurson was attracted by the altar filled with the power of the Dark Sun. He walked towards the Dark Sun altar among the ruins. He wanted to absorb the power of the Dark Sun and further strengthen his own strength. When Arthurson approached the altar, Tucker raised his hand and aimed the bullet tentacles at the detonation veins that triggered the light-shaping spear and ball. Artis, explosion. Boom, an even more violent explosion than before. The altar and Arthurson were lifted up into the sky. Chapter 53. Even if I die, I will kill again. Steam Tower. A twisted and unknown layer dimension. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. The old wizard Frank Blue, who had lost one arm, used his other arm to hold on and not fall down. Blood dripped from the tip of his nose and the broken arm onto the ground. But the blood did not accumulate on the ground where it fell. Instead, it was slowly absorbed. This is a cage. A cage specially set up for him. The more it absorbs his wizard blood, the stronger the cage will be. In the end, he will be imprisoned here forever. He will become the lower source power of the Steam Tower sequence engine. The most ridiculous thing is, Frank Blue, a powerful wizard who is good at calculation and masters the tree of knowledge. Without any defense or warning, he stupidly took the initiative to enter this cage specially prepared for him. Until now, Frank Blue has not figured it out. How was he discovered? Before I die, can I ask how I was discovered? Feeling that he could no longer hold on, Frank Blue gave up resistance. He gave up struggling to stand up and sat cross-legged on the ground. However, no one paid attention to the 7 or 8 figures around him. Exchange. At this time, a voice sounded. No problem. Who is your contact person? Frank Blue looked around. He paused on a figure for a moment. Then he responded, it's among you. Do you think this little trick will work for us? The cold voice sounded again. Frank Blue did not respond, but just said lightly. Exchange. Silence filled the air. After a long time, in the depths of death and darkness, a voice sounded. Someone looked at you in the crowd. The old wizard Frank Blue lowered his head. You spotted me in the crowd after just one glance. What a ridiculous answer. But I don't feel anything wrong with this at all. Is this the incredible truth? In the silent confrontation, the blood cage enveloped the old wizard Frank Blue in the deepest darkness. Tower area. A tower made of white marble and steam steel, near the steam tower, stood quietly here. On the light blue glass of Minglian, a charming and exotic woman's face was reflected. She had protruding cheekbones, a high nose bridge, fair skin, a tall figure, a pair of golden eyes, and long golden hair, which made her feel like an angel on earth. Her slender fingers gently tapped the ancient silver wooden railings carved with classical patterns. Last time, the power stored in the Hunter Guild's altar was secretly sacrificed. This time, Frank Blue was even more calculated and fell into a trap. Before he was pulled into the dark cage, he used the power of thunder to inform me. The ritual can't wait any longer. Now there are 2 altars as a trigger. Just as the woman was thinking, the glass in front of her eyes suddenly filled with scorching holy light. It was clearly reflected in the woman's golden eyes. Just now, the woman noticed that a battle had occurred in the bunker area. However, her attention was more attracted by the situation in the steam tower. At this time, the second battle broke out there. The woman finally felt it. It was the altar, the afterglow of the explosion. The woman took a deep breath. There's only one altar left, and it must be activated immediately. At the same time, investigate the mastermind behind this. I'm afraid that other forces have begun to interfere with our plan. Whether it is the large amount of fresh blood in the Lamore Tower city-state, or the extremely valuable Demon King's tomb, this will be a good feast. The woman turned around and pushed open the secret door in the wall of the tower. Before stepping into the secret door, the woman turned around and looked at the steam tower that was like a lighthouse in the dark, roaring and supporting a steam ecosystem. The woman resolutely sank into the darkness without looking back. The gorgeous fireworks slowly ended. Tucker didn't know how high the artistic component of this explosion was. But Tucker knew that Arthurson, who was out of control and sent to the sky for the second time by himself, with a hollow woman's face on his chest, had gone completely crazy. At this time, the distorted Arthurson, like a little giant, was chasing Tucker relentlessly. Tucker kept hiding, pulling, and casting spells in the shadows of trees, bushes, and corners of houses. Even if Tucker used shadow travel to jump into the shadows 50 or 60 meters away, the out-of-control and deformed Arthurson was still able to lock on to Tucker and catch up. At this time, the deformed Arthurson was like a burly black bull knight. Every step he took on the ground, the soil sank, the bricks and stones broke, and a dull sound was heard. The distorted breath of the dark sun was left in the footpit. This guy is simply an indestructible cockroach. Besides, he is obviously dead, but you still want to kill him again. This is unscientific. Tucker rubbed his eyes, and blood had seeped out unconsciously. A layer of blood-colored gauze was even covered in front of his eyes. His heart was beating faster and faster, and the tearing pain became clearer. Continuous fighting and pulling. The pursuit of the dark sun and the infiltration of the strange evil god's power have begun to affect Tucker. Fortunately, it was Tucker who absorbed the Great Barrier and anchored his own ecology. If it were any other extraordinary person, he would have become part of the source of distortion pollution. Tucker's kerosene bomb fell on him, and the scorching kerosene attached to him. It burned for less than a second before it was twisted and annihilated by the power of the dark sun. Tucker used the bloodthorn vine to restrict the opponent. As a result, the vine was pulled up by the opponent and stuffed into his mouth like a spicy strip. Only the two-star witchcraft, spear of shaping light, can still cause certain damage and obstacles to him. Tucker didn't know if he could kill the opponent first before being polluted to an irreversible degree by the opponent. But Tucker knew that this battle had been discovered by many extraordinary people in the bunker area. There were not a few eyes gathered on Tucker. Fortunately, Tucker's original Dark Sea had amazing source energy recovery, which could support Tucker to maintain the shadow. Teacher Aubrey asked me to clean it up. Could it be that he has no way to solve this source of pollution from the dark sun? Tucker was having a headache now. Just when Tucker was thinking about whether to use the rune treasure he exchanged from Mr. Aubrey. "I'll help you kill him, and the wizard robe will be mine." A cold voice suddenly sounded. Without looking back, Tucker had already sensed who was coming. It was the wizard youth with a rune mark on his forehead and a cold temperament who had been at the crossroads symbolizing the Church of Destiny. The wizard robe was quite strange. Tucker had noticed it a long time ago. Because of this, Tucker did not take it rashly. At this time, the cold wizard youth who suddenly visited made this seemingly unreasonable request. "Give me a reasonable reason, and I will give it to you." Tucker glanced at the young man and took advantage of the situation. "That's my mother, at least, part of it," the cold young man said very straightforwardly. "Mother? Part of it?" Tucker glanced at the corner of his eye and glanced at the empty female face. "This plot is a bit complicated." Tucker took a deep breath. "Deal, but you have to completely solve this pollution source and not let it spread. If it weren't for preventing this pollution source from spreading." Takara pulled the distorted and polluted Arthurson and circled the city-state of Lamore a few times. "I don't believe he wouldn't be exhausted." "No problem." The two officially completed the handover of cooperation. Chapter 54 Dark Sun Ritual, Bloom. The indifferent young man floated his hand in the air quickly. Colorful musical notes visible to the naked eye jumped out one by one. He waved his hand, and a series of musical notes floated over and hit the thick back of the deformed Arthurson. The damage was not high, but it successfully attracted Arthurson's attention. Tucker's eyes narrowed slightly and saw something else contained in the musical note witchcraft. It's hatred. Tucker felt that the hatred that the deformed creature had deposited on him was transferred to the indifferent young man. Through musical witchcraft, the mobilization and transfer of emotions are completed. I've only heard of it before, but I've never seen it. It's a bit magical. Tucker quickly expanded his knowledge while watching the battle. Wizards of different factions have different tendencies and characteristics. Some unique skills are even more different. Music witchcraft can reduce the consciousness activity of deformed life forms, and can even control deformed life forms to a certain extent. It's just, the damage is a bit like scraping. Although it's slow, it's safe. Besides, it's not too slow. I have more than a dozen spears of light shaping stuck in that big guy. The subsequent continuous damage of holy light burning is not small. Looking at the pile of light spears on the deformed Arthurson, Tucker rubbed his heart, which was getting more and more painful. The effect of pollution was revealed. Tucker took a deep breath and continued to observe. Besides, he also used musical witchcraft such as dispersal and protection to ensure his own safety. Unlike me, there are not many means to fight against weird characteristics at present. This is also the disadvantage of wizards in the main combat route. The output is fierce, but the comprehensive adaptability is poor. But after all, I still have a short time to grow up. Give me another 2 years, no, it only takes half a year, and I can kick that deformed guy like a ball. Observing room. Tucker felt his right eye itchy, and his eyes were dazed. Just as he was about to rub it, a bloody curled bloodworm fell on the back of his hand with a click sound, and kept crawling on the back of Tucker's hand. Tucker's right eye was also blinded. Mild pollution. Tucker took a deep breath. Immediately, Tucker moved his feet and sank into the shadow beside him. The shadow power quickly gathered and enveloped Tucker. When Tucker looked at his wizard ecology, the outline of the dark sun had already slowly risen and condensed in the wizard ecology. The wizard tree, bullet tentacles, kerosene bombs, touch perception, sheep transformation and other witchcraft were almost all shrouded in the light of the dark sun. The only thing that was not covered by the light of the dark sun was the spear of shaping light. Tucker immediately mobilized the source energy and poured into the sequence projection of the spear of shaping light. The sacred breath emerged in Tucker's wizard ecology. Before dispelling the pollution, Tucker thought about it and retrieved a memory projection from the knowledge vein. Transform into a sheep and go back. After doing all this, Tucker was relieved to dispel the power of the dark sun. Tucker himself has mastered the power of holy light. Unlike the ability in the summoning sequence, Tucker is quite talented in the direction of holy light. Combined with Tucker's precision correction, Tucker can also clean up those hidden deeper pollution sources. Fortunately, it is only the initial entry into the ecosystem, and the pollution has just begun. I can still borrow the power in the ecosystem to clean up and expel it. Once the pollution really penetrates into the sequence and completes the irreversible pollution, then it will require the extraordinary people of the priest sequence to take action to clean it up. If it is deeply polluted, the wizard sequence will be greatly damaged. Then it will require professional extraordinary priests to complete the sequence removal surgery. When the battle outside was about to end, Tucker's dispersal work also came to an end. Tucker slowly opened his eyes. The vision of his right eye has been restored. Looking at the right wrist, there was no blood at all, and there were no crawling flesh worms, or similar worm corpses. Just now, the real scene with clear veins appeared, like an illusion. Tucker stood up and looked around. Only then did he realize that the shadow power on his body had dissipated. Tucker revealed his appearance. At the same time, in the corner, some summons were used, or some other methods, spells, etc. A lot of eyes were focused on Tucker. For this super wizard who killed the genius of the evil god organization of the Dark Sun Church 1.5 times. Many people remembered him at the first time. Humph! Tucker snorted coldly, and the shadow swept over, until he was completely wrapped in it. Successfully concealed his appearance. Tucker said softly, "Tanaru, you are going to be famous now." Just now, Tucker went back to the transformation and turned back to Tanaru. What was exposed was also Tanaru's appearance. Dark Knight Priest and Shadow Wizard are two different sequences. Yes, the genius with the legendary double sequence is me, Tanaru. No need to thank me. Tucker smiled softly. The red brick house, no, more accurately, it was a ruined battlefield with broken walls and ruins. The small flames of the kerosene bombs, mixed with a little sacred breath, burned intermittently in the gaps between the collapsed stones. Near the ruins of the red brick house, Arthurson's deformed strange life form has now turned into a black sticky meatball the size of a wash basin. Even so, the strange black meatball is still wriggling and struggling. However, the notes condensed by the power of witchcraft, layer by layer, like a 1,000-layer cake, locked it in the wizard robe with a woman's face in the depths. Of course, Tucker's many light-shaping spears before him also contributed to the continuous elimination of the distorted pollution source. Soon, the indifferent wizard youth spread out a large parchment scroll with a width of 1/2 meter. Just spread it out. Buzz! The rich power of runes spread out. The burning small flame was blown out instantly. The pollution in the air was annihilated with a hiss. Even the moonlight of the ash moon was squeezed away by the power of the runes, forming a forbidden area of moonlight. Tucker, who wanted to get closer and was in the shadow state, was directly pushed away 5 or 6 meters. This rune power is so strong. Tucker raised his eyebrows slightly. Runestone is a way to carry the power of runes, a material. And the rune parchment scroll in front of him contains even stronger rune power. The black viscous pollution source wrapped in a ball. Gurgle. Gurgle. 2 consecutive rolls fell into the rune parchment scroll. As the rune parchment scroll closed, the pollution source was also completely sealed by the power of the rune. After doing all this, the indifferent young man glanced at Tucker. Just when the indifferent young man wanted to speak, Tucker's heart was suddenly touched. Immediately, Tucker looked at the location of the steam tower with a solemn expression. The indifferent young man was slightly startled, and he also followed Tucker's gaze. For a long while, he did not find anything unusual. Just when he was confused, the source energy was like a wave, suddenly gathering towards the steam tower. The source energy brushed across his cheek, and many extraordinary people who noticed this scene felt bad. Ash's wave. The next moment. Rumble. A heavy and rich dark sunlight column climbed up from the middle area of the steam tower, along the steam tower. It can be seen with the naked eye that a straight vein, under the cold night sky and the cold moonlight, poured into the indescribable depths of the void dimension. And in the depths of the void dimension, there seemed to be greedy, hungry, and crazy eyes, staring at this noisy world that was about to fall into darkness. The Dark Sun Ritual of the evil god organization Dark Sun Church. It started. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, The Dark Tide of Ash is Coming. After all, can't we stop the Dark Sun's ritual? Staring at the Dark Sun ritual that had opened the dimensional void, Tucker took a deep breath. Then, Tucker looked into the depths of the ashland outside the Lamore Tower city-state. Those cities, towns, and villages that had long been swallowed by the Dark Sun. At this time, there were also larger small Dark Sun ritual-like columns pouring into the void. Although those traces and veins were barely visible, they were still caught by Tucker. The power of the ritual had long been distributed around the Lamore city-state. At this time, it broke out in full force. As a large amount of Dark Sun power was activated by the sacrificial ritual, the ash moon above the sky began to dim gradually. The original outline of the ash moon, the power of Dark Sun, was being nurtured in it. Tucker also knew that the Dark Sun Church had been plotting for a long time. The altar at the location of the Lamore city-state was more of a starting traction for the ritual. Even if he destroyed all the altars, the other party could still continue to build altars and complete the starting traction of the ritual. Originally, what Tucker wanted to do was to prevent the initiation of the ritual at the right time. As long as it missed the right time for the ritual, it would cause considerable damage and impact to it. Now it seems that Tucker did not do it. No. Tucker looked at the Dark Sun power sacrificed in the steam tower. I destroyed 2 of the 3 altars. Although they were only 2 small ones, they were an important part of stabilizing the main sacrificial ritual. The power of the sacrifice is not stable. And I have already informed Lord Aubrey and the others that there may be ritual altars in the tower, and tonight is the time to start. They cannot make preparations. Unstable rituals may not be interrupted. What's more, Tucker glanced at the indifferent young man. His eyes fell on the parchment rune scroll behind the indifferent young man. The scroll, which looked light, seemed particularly heavy to carry. I also successfully killed a steam genius who was about to be born in the Dark Sun Church. The indifferent young wizard stared at the ritual that had bloomed for a moment. Then he looked back at Tucker. His eyes were full of doubts. The shadow wizard seemed to have sensed it when the ceremony just started. But he waited until the ceremony was fully blossomed before he felt it. Just in terms of perception ability, the two were not at the same level. You know, he was already at the peak of the 2nd level and could be promoted to the 3rd level at any time. After a moment of hesitation, the indifferent young man said, "The sacrifice ceremony has begun. It must be accompanied by the ash tide. When I was underground, I noticed that the underground Kobold army was gathering its strength. There are also members of the Dark Sun Church there. In addition, many creatures in the entire underground of Lamore and around the city-state have been affected by the Dark Sun. You, take care of yourself." After saying that, the indifferent young man sank into the darkness and quickly disappeared. Ashes and dark tide. Tucker whispered to himself. Is it coming after all? A lot of information about the ashes and dark tide emerged in his mind. Tucker did not delay and immediately rushed towards the direction of the undead tower. The ceremony of the Dark Sun Church started, accompanied by the surge of the ashes and dark tide. Several main towers of Lamore Tower will inevitably withstand the attack from the Dark Sun Church. The dark flying creatures in the sky will sweep across the entire territory of Lamore Tower city-state. The lighthouse defense line in front will withstand the attack of Dark Sun Evil Fall. And the rats, dog-headed army, etc. on the ground will also pour into Lamore from the caves and crypts on the ground. These creatures are usually just food and supernatural resources for the Lamor Tower city-state. During the Ash Dark Tide, they will become extremely irritable, bloodthirsty, and murderous. Under the guidance of the Dark Sun ritual, they will be crazy to ring the death knell of Lamor. Not to mention, there are many supernaturals who are members of the Dark Sun Church themselves, and they will also take the opportunity to pour into the Lamor Tower city-state. When the evil god's ritual blooms on the Lamor Steam Tower, it also means that the feast of killing is about to begin. Lamor has not been harassed and attacked by the Dark Sun Church. It's not like they haven't endured the surge of the Ash Tide before. But in Ash's Tide, plus Dark Sun Ritual, both came at the same time. This is the first time in the city-state of Lamor Tower. A lighthouse stronghold on the city wall. The old knight Karun wielded his heavy sword and chopped off the head of an evil creature that climbed up the city wall. Then he kicked the head of the evil creature like a ball. At this time, more evil creatures climbed up the city wall from the darkness, and their number was more than that of insects. Many lighthouse strongholds on the city wall entered the battle at this time. The sound of fighting was endless. "Come on, you sons of bitches!" The old knight Karun roared loudly. Relying on the deterrence accumulated by killing evil creatures for many years and the light of the lighthouse behind him, those evil creatures did not dare to continue to attack rashly. The old knight Karun tied the handle of the heavy sword tightly in his hand with a rough cloth strip. He was a little old, so this could prevent the heavy sword from falling off. Another sturdy evil fell rushed forward. The old knight Karun kicked him down with one foot, and then smashed his head with a sword. "Eugene, you idiot, stop hiding behind and playing those tricks of yours, take your sword and come to finish me off." Then the old knight Karun shouted at the wizard Eugene in the corner. "I am a spellcaster." The young Eugene trembled in response. "Then show your strength as a spellcaster, don't be like a woman, scared and unable to cast spells." Another ranger in the team shot and killed another Dark Sun evil fell, and said jokingly. The night watchmen stationed at the lighthouse. They tried their best to protect the lighthouse on the city wall. Although they talked and laughed, they all knew that facing the evil fallen like a tide, if there was no timely backup, they would be swallowed by death when the light of the lighthouse was annihilated. This was not only true for the city wall, but also for other lines of defense. The underground defense line, at this time, is facing a large-scale attack from a large number of kobolds, goblins, rats and other creatures. The steam ecology of the entire Lamor Tower city-state. It all depends on the steam source provided by the steam tower to maintain everything. And the darkness is like an ash tide, roaring and surging, trying to drown everything here. In the shadow state, Tucker, who was floating and flying, was very fast. Gah, gah. At this moment, an undead raven quickly glided towards Tucker. "Tucker." The voice of the undead wizard Aubrey sounded. "I need to cooperate with Earl Lamor to solve the altar ceremony. Also, we need to guard against their subsequent actions. The undead tower can't go back in a short time. You go underground to help Amanda guard the undead crack channel and guard it as long as possible. In the undead crack area, there will be powerful guys. You be careful." "Understood." Tucker nodded carefully. The undead raven left again. Tucker raised his head slightly. The ash moon above the sky became dimmer. As he was observing, strange and bizarre veins gradually appeared in the outline of Tucker's vision. "No matter how talented you are afraid of pollution." Tucker retracted his gaze. "Besides, my precision is biased towards combat and control, not a talent for fighting pollution. If it is a talent like SSS level purification, the source of pollution, I'm afraid I can roast him to medium rare on the spot." As he moved forward, Tucker could already hear the sound of the surging waves. The ash dark tide had already swept in. The ash dark tide itself is also a kind of source energy tide, but for humans, it contains too much negative power. But for the system, negative power? It doesn't exist. The only indicator the system cares about is source energy concentration. I don't know if the concentration of source energy can allow me to develop quickly when the ash dark tide is the most turbulent. Tucker thought secretly as he moved forward. Chapter 56. Tucker, here. As soon as he arrived at the bottom of the undead tower, Tucker saw Menti waving at Tucker with her two undead knights. Apparently, Amenti had also received an order from Master Aubrey. "You don't even give me time to rest." Tucker rubbed his brows and slowed down. The shadow ring staff allowed Tucker's shadow state to float half a meter off the ground, which was very energy saving for long distance raids. It was just that the source energy was consumed quite a lot. However, the dark sea of origin that Tucker had opened up before became Tucker's biggest reliance for being able to use the shadow ring staff for a long time. Tucker's own source pool had a lot of source energy. And the dark sea of origin, with Tucker's investment in resources, although the level was 18, the reserve of the dark sea of origin was 3 times that of Tucker's own source pool. In other words, Tucker had 4 times the source energy of an 18th level wizard. In the previous battle, Tucker consumed about 1.5 basic source pools of source energy. Now he has recovered almost 0.5. There are still 3 basic source pools of source energy, plus Tucker's source energy recovery effect is amazing. He is not too afraid of the upcoming fierce battle of the Ashes Dark Tide. Tucker, they have all gone first, let's go quickly. After saying that, Amanti turned over and sat behind the undead knight. The magnificent undead warhorse was still big enough for 2 people. The other people Amanti mentioned were the other undead wizard students who studied under Mentor Aubrey. Tucker looked at another undead knight. An unfriendly feeling came over him. Tucker could feel that these 2 guys were the skeletons and extraordinary characteristics of the 2 knights that he and Tanu had killed together. If he dared to ride on them, the knight would probably throw him off on the spot. You don't want to go up? Amanti asked curiously. No. I'm allergic to riding horses. Tucker said lightly. Ah. Amanti paused. Can you be allergic to riding horses? Tucker just waved his hand. You lead the way, I can keep up. Tucker already possessed the heart power of an elite demon wolf. With a 19th level of wind sprint and shadow state, he was extremely fast, comparable to a small vampire. He was confident that he could keep up. Okay then. Amanti led the way. The 3 of them have already built a defense line for the undead there. There's no problem with those ordinary undead. What I'm afraid of is the appearance of a large number of elites, or even powerful leader-level undead. Then you'll need to take action. No problem. Tucker nodded. Deep underground. In a dark and silent cave. Crack. The crackling sound of the chain breaking rang out one after another. A black sheep, with its outline visible to the naked eye, broke free from its restraints. It completed the transformation from a sheep to a human. This person was Tanilu. Tucker, who had mastered the barrier ritual, let Tanilu go before taking action. After arriving deep in the cave, Tanir tried to break free from the shackles of the sheep transforming technique. It took several hours before and after, and he finally completed it. As a Dark Sun believer with the power of the Dark Sun in his body, Tanir has already felt the turmoil in the city-state of Lamor Tower. He knows that no matter whether he is caught by the official Lamor or the Dark Sun Church, he will basically die. Therefore, Tanir did not hesitate and resolutely fled in a direction away from the Lamor Tower. But soon, Tanir returned. The speed was more determined and faster than when he left before. Conscience? Not there. At this time, behind Tanir, there was a large group of demonized rats that were comparable to adult orange cats, with red eyes, hideous hair, and full of madness and bloodthirstiness. Tanir knew very well. Anyone who was caught by these crazy and bloodthirsty demonized rats and could leave a complete bone, it would be considered a blessing from the gods. How come these damn rats are so big? Cursing, Tanilu increased his speed and fled towards the location of the undead tower. Deep in the underground passage. Steadily following behind Amanti and the undead knight. Tucker moved forward while checking out the gains. A 2nd level Earth Rune Ring Staff is stronger than my Shadow Rune. It's worth at least a few hundred magic gold, and possibly thousands of magic gold if it's more. Using this Earth Rune Ring Staff to activate the barrier ritual witchcraft is simply perfect. The defensive plating that comes with this Earth Rune is also quite good, but it will slightly conflict with my Shadow Curtain robe, but it's not a big problem. If there is a rune alchemist in this field who can solve this problem, it would be perfect. The second is an astonishing number of life potions and source energy potions. They are all high-end products and can be sold for hundreds of magic gold. Tisk tisk. You are worthy of being a member of a wizard family with amazing financial resources. The other miscellaneous materials that come in one after another are more or less contaminated by the Dark Sun. That guy is a Dark Sun believer himself, so it's easy to digest, but for me, it's very troublesome. If there was an alchemist, it would be even better. There are still quite a few alchemists in the tower. You can visit them when you have time. Thinking of the alchemist, Tucker couldn't help but grope his fingers slightly. Alchemy depends on the precise control and grasp of materials. Besides, I have almost digested all the alchemy books of Eden Gladstone. I can still be considered a half-alchemy apprentice in theory. I don't have the alchemy sequence, but I can have the steam sequence, combined with the SSS level, precision correction. Even if I can't become a powerful alchemist, it's enough to be able to repair extraordinary equipment and materials normally. After checking many materials, Tucker gathered his mind. Look at the most important harvest, the steam core. In the nearly condensed source energy steam, an object about the size of 2 fists with a light silver-gray metallic luster was sealed in it. Its surface is very irregular, but each texture vein has a wonderful rhythm. In many deeper parts, it is obvious that there are complete rune marks. In other words, the powerful rune power is only one of the components of the item. Tucker glanced over and felt the extremely dense and thick veins rushing towards him. In addition, the dense veins are very regular and full of strong steam sequence characteristics. Tucker has never seen such a high density of sequence veins on an object for the first time. Tucker couldn't help but sigh. This is the unique product of the steam roaring tide era that cannot be described in specific words, the steam core. Steel and rails are the blood vessels of life. The burning of source energy steam is the source of life. The roaring steam machinery factory and the steam rising furnace are his organs. The passengers in the steam train are his believers. The transported goods are his sacrifices. The prosperity and wealth brought by the arrival of the steam train station are his beliefs. The accumulation of hundreds of years throughout the era. In the end, the extraordinary steam era gave birth to the greatest miracle of mankind, the spirit of steam and rails, and his crystallized product, steam core. With a steam core, Tucker is qualified to be upgraded to a powerful steam wizard. Just when Tucker wanted to use more words to praise the steam core, disharmonious movement appeared. A figure appeared at the junction of the small fork in the road ahead. It was Tanniru, whom Tucker had asked to leave. Not only did this guy come back, but he also bumped into 2 people. I have to say, this guy's luck is not ordinary. When he first saw Amanda and her undead knight, Tanniru was delighted. He instinctively glanced back. Then, the smile froze on his face. Oh, damn it. Tanniru cursed in a low voice. Since you are back, let's go to defend the line together. After all, the double sequence genius of the Lamore Tower city-state killed the A-level genius of the Evil God organization. It will soon be known to everyone. Tucker looked at Tanniru and said with a long breath. What? Tanniru was shocked at first. He actually killed the A-level genius of the Evil God organization. Then he was angry. He dared to put the blame on me. Finally, he was terrified. He could even kill the genius who was closely protected by the Evil God organization. What if he wanted to kill me? 1,000 resentments and hatreds surged up his lips, and Tanniru could only swallow his anger. This damn demon. As he was walking forward, Tucker suddenly felt something and looked back. Tucker could naturally feel the large number of rats. And in the rat colony, there seemed to be a special existence hidden. Chapter 57 Rat, Leader. Dense swarms of rats came like a tide, following closely behind the few people. A kerosene bomb the size of a bowl was thrown over. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Tucker was responded by the rapid and angry squeaks of a large number of rats. Did you disturb the rat's nest? Tucker looked at Tanniru. How should I know? I just broke free from your sheep transformation in the depths of the cave. Just after I broke free, this group of rats came out from nowhere. Tanniru said breathlessly while running. This guy was already a little exhausted. Maybe, you shouldn't have changed back, at least sheep run faster than you. Tucker teased. Okay, you go first, I'll cover you. There are so many rats. When we go to the Undead Rift area later, it will have a certain impact on the defense line. Then you should be careful. Amanti said. You too. After a brief warning, he glanced at Tanniru. Tanniru obviously sensed Tucker's distrust, and he said angrily, Damn it, I'm a priest. Do you still expect me to assassinate an undead wizard? That's true. Tucker slowed down his pace. He began to throw out kerosene bombs one after another. As the kerosene bombs continued to explode, large numbers of demonized rats affected by the ash tide were constantly burned to death by Tucker's kerosene. These rats were only level 5 or 6, and at most level 8 or 9. The Dark Knight Priest Tanniru might not be able to clean up a large area. But for Tucker, who prefers to fight, no matter how many come, they are all food. During the cleaning, Tucker was also retreating. After all, there were too many rats, densely packed, one after another, like a tide. with a large-scale killing of rats. The hunting characteristics of the crypt ecology began to take effect. Tucker clearly felt that the pure source energy turned into tiny veins and streams, slowly flowing into his wizard ecology. The source energy experience Tucker obtained through cultivation, absorption, and killing will directly enter the wizard ecology. The source energy obtained by the system will be stored in the system. The source energy stored in the wizard ecology has an upper limit. The system, on the other hand, reserves source energy experience without an upper limit. Feeling the performance of the hunting characteristic, Tucker's mind emerged with a lot of in-depth understanding of the supernatural ecological characteristics. The ecological characteristics of the supernatural ecology are the embodiment and precipitation of the sequence power of the area. For example, the ecological characteristic of the crypt ecology is hunting. In the crypt passage, killing other creatures will gain a certain amount of source energy experience. As you continue to go deeper, the proportion of this source energy experience will continue to rise. Near the Demon King dungeon, this proportion value will reach its peak. As you get closer to the ground, the effect of hunting will gradually decay. When you reach the ground, there will be no hunting characteristics. The surface does not belong to the crypt supernatural ecological area. It is said that through the world of the Demon King dungeon, go to the deeper world purgatory layer. There lived powerful demons, devils, dragons, and many creatures of the purgatory system. Killing was the extraordinary ecological characteristic of the place. At this time, Tucker was enjoying the source energy experience brought by the ecological characteristic of the dungeon area, hunting, through killing. Rat tide. Tucker's eyes narrowed slightly. It's just giving me experience. This was not only the case when Tucker came. It was also the case for many spellcasters with good strength. The hunting characteristic of the dungeon cave made the extraordinary people on the underground city defense line more like fighting, because there was experience to be gained. The night watchmen on the surface of the city wall were not so fond of fighting. After using kerosene bombs to slightly hinder the rat tide, Tucker quickly began to release bloodthorn vines. Soon, at the top of the dungeon passage, a defense line composed of more than 20 vines was constructed by Tucker. Normally, the witchcraft bloodthorn vine will become weaker and weaker, and eventually collapse. Once the opponent is a relatively weak flesh and blood creature. That was different for the bloodthorn vine. By killing and causing bleeding damage, the bloodthorn vine can continuously absorb blood. This will extend its duration and continuously restore its own combat strength. It can't withstand pressure and is the best at bullying weak enemies. This is the bloodthorn vine. As expected. As Tucker's bloodthorn vine was arranged. Those twisted bodies, the peak of the first order, level 19 bloodthorn vine. They began to harvest the rats crazily. The vine swung and killed at a speed so fast that it was like an afterimage, flashing back and forth crazily. They were afraid that if they were a little slower, the other vines would be killed. Anyway, the bloodthorn vine didn't consume much source energy. Tucker retreated while constantly arranging the bloodthorn vine. The corpses of the rats in the front were piling up more and more. Even if those rats could kill them, they would need a large number of corpses to pave the way. At this time, squeak. A group of particularly penetrating rats cried out in a dense stream. Finally, is it coming? Tucker looked at the position of the large number of rats that were blocked by his defense line. Just now, Tucker discovered the abnormality of this group of rats. Through the subtle veins, there is a mysterious vein power that is driving these rats to chase and kill Tanalu, Tucker and others. And that mysterious vein is the leader-level rat. Normally, these elite rats and leader-level rats will not show up easily. But this time, under the influence of the Ash Dark Tide and the ritual of the Dark Sun Evil God Church, these rats have gone completely crazy. 7 or 8 elite rats the size of small hunting dogs rush to the front. The blood-red eyes the size of soybeans are full of bloodthirstiness and madness. The demonized rats have completely lost their minds and rushed up directly. The afterimage-like bloodthorn vines whip them crazily. If these elite rats were level 17 or 18, they might be able to hold out for a while. But their levels were only about level 11 to 13. As the subsequent vines entangled them, the surrounding vines also whipped them crazily. This just created an opportunity for the rat leader. Squeak. Tucker's slaughter had completely angered the demon-eyed bloodthirsty rat leader. While a large number of vines were attracted to the target, the rat leader, whose black hair on his body was like steel needles, turned into a black afterimage and pounced on Tucker like a large hound. squeak, a sharp hiss, and rushed straight to Tucker's face. The speed was amazing. At this time, Tucker, who was shrouded in shadow, had a slight smile on his lips. "I've been waiting for you for a long time, and you finally came out." If the rat leader was hiding in the rat tide, Tucker had no way to kill it. But it was different when it ran out. Tucker, who had been well prepared, perfectly anchored the opponent with the trajectory of the spear of shaping light the moment the rat leader flew out. And the position was exactly the rat mouth with ferocious fangs. Bang! With the sound of gunfire, Tucker and the rat leader passed each other. The rat leader's tail was like a whip of steel chain, lashing at Tucker fiercely. After all, it was a level 15 leader creature. The attack was incredibly fast. Tucker, who avoided the opponent's bite, had no way to avoid a second attack. Snap! The rat leader's tail lashed Tucker. Tucker's shadow covered the surface of his body, and a shield with a little blue sheen emerged to block the whip of the tail. 3 whips are enough to break my wizard robe shield. This leader's damage is really strong. The fallen rat leader hit the ground headfirst and rolled 7 or 8 meters away. Blood was spilled all over the ground. The rat, who was so majestic just now, had been penetrated by Tucker's light-shaping spear from the mouth and out of the excretion cavity, which made the rat leader transparent from front to back. In the eyes of others, it is incredible to be able to complete the precise penetration operation with just a stray body. For Tucker, this is just a routine operation. It hits your incredible fatal weakness, otherwise what is the use of this SSS level, precision, correction? But even so, the rat leader still did not die. This guy's vitality is simply terrifying. The rat leader, who rolled violently on the ground, wanted to pull out the light-shaping spear. But Tucker obviously would not give him a chance. Buzz buzz buzz. The extremely penetrating light-shaping spears fell one after another, and the bloodthorn vine stopped the influx of a large number of rats. Tucker completely sentenced this rare rat leader to death. Chapter 58 Shadows and Feast. In the dark passage, the tentacles formed by the shadow twisted the kerosene lantern and moved forward silently. It was as if a shadow was chasing the light. Hoo-la-la. The sound of waves hitting the coast, full of rhythm and melody, sounded beside Tucker's ears. In addition to the sound of the waves, there were many strange and bizarre subtle sounds mixed in the sound of the waves. With the opening of the Dark Sun ritual, the ashes and dark tide has gradually poured into the Lamore Tower city-state. Perhaps ordinary extraordinary people can't hear or see it. But here in Tucker, the surge of the ashes and dark tide is clear. While moving forward, Tucker in the shadow was checking the extraordinary crystals obtained from the rat leader and several rat elites who had just been killed. As a smaller extraordinary creature, the extraordinary crystals of the rat elites are also slightly smaller, about the size of quail eggs. The materials of rodent creatures are usually not used as promotion materials for human extraordinary people. They are mostly used as equipment materials, or some special auxiliary materials, etc. Although it is slightly smaller in size, as an elite material, it can still be sold at a good price. This material is worth at least 10 magic gold. It is not difficult to kill elite rat creatures. The main thing is that they hide very deep and are too difficult to find. Looking over those first-level elite materials, Tucker looked at the crystal material of the most important harvest of this time, the leader of the rat. The amber crystal is about the size of an egg, and inside it emerges a heavy and extremely refined shadow characteristic. Yes, the extraordinary characteristic condensed after the death of the rat leader is shadow. And it is a very pure leader-level shadow. Although it is only a level 15 shadow, it is a rare leader-level material. Smelting it into the rune shadow ring staff, the power of the rune shadow ring staff will definitely be able to increase a small step. Tucker thought secretly. At present, the shadow essential characteristics of Tucker's shadow ring staff are probably about the level 22 or 23 shadow sequence. It's just that the shadow rune has strengthened it. But the shadow power of the shadow ring staff itself is not strong enough. With the refining and integration of this 15th level leader level shadow power, at least its shadow level can be raised to level 27, or even level 28. At that time, the 3 functions of the rune ring staff will be greatly improved. Even with some other shadow materials, it is possible to refine a 3rd level shadow ring staff. The extraordinary characteristics of shadow are relatively rare in themselves. It is really a great luck to be able to get such a pure large portion this time. After thinking for a while, Tucker gradually gathered his mind and looked forward. The breath of death and the disturbance of the undead are close at hand. Tucker thought for a moment, and then waved his hand to disperse the shadow power. He restored his true identity, an ordinary source wizard. His feet landed on the ground, a little unsteady. There was even a slight tingling sensation in the soles of his feet. The pure shadow state is not very compatible with a human life form. My legs are a little weak after floating for a long time. To develop my own shadow state, it is best to combine physical strength with a shadow state. It can not only effectively exert the characteristics of the shadow state, but also allow my physical body to be exerted, so that I don't have to feel pain on my feet when I land like now. While thinking, Tucker came to the exit of the cave with a kerosene lantern. At the end of the cave, the view in front of him suddenly became clear. The two sides of the rock wall were covered with orange-yellow wall lamps. Tucker glanced at them and found that they were indeed fire source wicks condensed by witchcraft. A large number of wall lamps made the place brightly lit. In the rock valley passage below the rock shelf, there was a special breath of an alien dimension, blowing in the face. To be more precise, it was a dimensional crack with the breath of an alien undead. With the influx of the ash tide, the undead crack was like a sweet rain from the sky, madly absorbing the source energy of the ash tide and expanding continuously. Tucker didn't know how big the undead crack was before. But now, the height of the undead crack is already 20 to 30 meters. The width of the intersection of the projection of the illusory undead crack and the ground. Tucker estimated that it should be no problem for a small cart to pass through. Tucker and others were located at a height of 10 meters below, on the wall rock shelf corridor. If the undead crack occupies the time of the ash dark tide, then Tucker and others occupy the geographical advantage of the terrain advantage. As for people, Tucker felt that people were not harmonious. At this time, there were about 20 to 30 spellcasters on the rock shelf corridors on both sides of the rock wall. Most of them were level 10, and fewer were level 20 or above. The number of undead wizards accounted for about half. There were many spellcasters, but from their positions, it can be seen that they basically fought on their own. The ash dark tide will cause a large number of undead to descend into the crypt passage. And the purpose of everyone is to stop the foreign undead army from attacking the undead tower. Until Lord Aubrey arrived. After all, in the past, the alien undead army of the ash dark tide was ultimately blocked by Lord Aubrey's undead army. At this time, Amanti and Tanulu were at a protruding rock shelf not far away, which looked quite good. "What's the situation over there?" Seeing Tucker coming, Amanti asked in a low voice. "The rat tide has been basically resolved," Tucker said lightly. This made the two of them look slightly moved. The rat tide was not easy to deal with. Even a spellcaster of more than 30 levels might not be able to deal with it. Tucker, who was only in his teens, solved it by himself. Without waiting for the two to ask more questions, Tucker looked around and looked at Amanti. "Have you defended the advance of the undead army here before?" "Yes." Amanti nodded. "How long can these people around hold on?" Tucker asked. "It will take at most 1 or 2 days. If we hold on, 3 days is the limit. That means this nearly 1 month ash tide basically depends on the undead army of Mentor Aubrey in the end." "What else?" Amanti asked. Tucker took a deep breath and turned to look at the undead rift that showed deep dimensional vein cracks. "You said. Is there a possibility that we can hold it ourselves?" "What?" Both of them looked at him in disbelief. "Are you kidding?" It was Tanulu who spoke. As a member of the tower, he naturally knew how serious the undead rift was. At the beginning, it was only because the energy limit of the crack was low, only level 7, 8, and 10 level undead creatures, and most of them were skeleton creatures. Later, the undead creatures will not only be of high level, but also of more species. Ghosts with the ability to fly and travel, and agile cannibals will make us lose our geographical advantage. The fast and powerful undead knights, as well as the powerful undead bone dragons, can easily destroy the undead defense line of the undead wizards. Moreover, those dementors who are proficient in assassination can directly threaten the undead wizards themselves. When the time comes, how can we resist? With our heads. Tanulu, who was originally conscripted by Tucker, was very dissatisfied. Finally found an opportunity, so he ridiculed Tucker. "Well, you are right." Tucker nodded. "So, we must be well prepared and defend as long as we can. We can't help with the situation outside. We can only guard the undead crack here and wait for the results from the outside world." At the same time, Tucker examined the undead crack. This is also a rare feast. Chapter 59. Please remember his name. If you can't stop it, it's a disaster. If you can stop it, it's a feast. Tucker knew from the information he had read before that there would indeed be many powerful and rare undead creatures in the Undead Rift. And the extraordinary characteristics contained in these rare undead creatures are precisely the important channel for the Lamore Tower city-state to harvest resources. It's no exaggeration to say that when the Ashes and Dark Tide came, the resources produced by the Undead Rift in front of him had basically touched the soul of the core resources of the Lamore Tower city-state. Although Lord Aubrey promised to help Tucker raise other materials for steam upgrades. However, the materials for Tucker's subsequent promotion, as well as the wizard characteristics he needs as his strength becomes stronger. In addition, create extraordinary equipment suitable for yourself. Buy powerful spells, etc. All of this requires resources, or magic gold. Tucker can't miss the harvest feast of the Undead Rift in front of him. Retracting his gaze from the Undead Rift, Tucker looked at Tanaru. Tanaru, start the barrier ceremony and build a small 2-story bunker here. Why me? Can't you build it yourself? Tanaru refused Tucker's unreasonable request based on the principle of lying down rather than standing up. Well, when my iron-coupled source wall comes out later, if you kneel in the corner and lose yourself, I won't care about you. Tucker's words made Tanaru's face change. Although he was constrained to turn into a sheep last time. But even if he didn't turn into a sheep, he didn't dare to say that he was sure not to be attracted by the iron-coupled source wall. After all, in order to fight against the Dark Sun, he absorbed the power of the barrier crazily. Although now he spends a lot of energy every day to clean up his belief in the barrier. But this kind of matter involving the soul level cannot be solved in 1 or 2 days. After all, Tanaru didn't dare to continue to be stubborn. Looking around, Tanaru said helplessly, there is no suitable building here, and my source pattern barrier cannot actively guide materials and build walls. I'll help you. Tucker said lightly. Soon, Tanaru arranged the sacrificial ceremony. Tanaru had sufficient sacrificial materials, source stone crystals, high concentration liquor, black swan feathers, etc. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, facing the offerings and the altar. Tanaru's face showed unprecedented piety and calmness. There is no doubt that at this moment, he is a true believer of the barrier. He chanted in a low voice, Great barrier that protects the world, I am your most devout believer. I am willing to dedicate my faith and pray for your coming. The wind whirls up suddenly, and the fire is like a mirror. Tanaru's ceremony attracts a lot of people's attention. Some people even come to take a closer look. After all, the situation in Lamore is now being invaded by the Dark Sun ritual. In this deep underground, and in a very critical location of the Undead Crack, a mysterious ceremony is carried out. It is inevitable that people will be suspicious. But with Amandi here, the 2 undead wizards who are obviously students of Lord Aubrey came to check, and Amandi's explanation made them feel relieved. Crack, crack, crack. The wall near Tucker and Tanaru suddenly began to wriggle. Then, the hard rock became as soft as plasticine and was quickly pulled away and gathered. The rock under the 2 people grew rapidly, and a pair of invisible hands continued to shape it. After a dozen breaths, a small bunker with a diameter of about 3 meters and a height of 6 meters appeared in front of many spellcasters. This small bunker is just a carrier, and the source pattern barrier used to carry it is the real powerful existence. The source pattern barrier can not only withstand a large number of long-range attacks, but also hinder the sneak attacks of those ghost-like flying undead. The 2 older undead wizards looked at the small fortress made by their bare hands and were also stunned. Amandi, are you going to stay here? This is not a wise choice. Those ghost-like creatures can basically ignore this kind of physical barrier. Hey, this fortress seems to have some kind of barrier. The 29th level undead wizard seemed to see something. Even if there is a barrier, it can't fight against those powerful undead creatures. After being lectured by 2 senior necromancers, Amandi couldn't refute. After all, when they were studying together, these 2 seniors taught her a lot of summoning skills and experience. Don't worry, we have the super genius, Tanaru. At this time, a voice slowly sounded. The 2 necromancers looked over. It was Tucker who slowly walked down the steep stairs of the bunker. Tucker. Recently, the battle artist that Lord Orb highly praised, the 2 naturally knew each other. Tanaru. Sorry, I haven't heard of it. The 2 necromancers looked calm and indifferent. That's because you are ignorant. Tucker, who came over, smiled. He is a performance artist who has been lurking in the Dark Sun Church for many years. He personally killed an A-level extraordinary genius of the Dark Sun Evil God Organization Church. He even destroyed the Dark Sun Church ceremony to a certain extent and blew up a small altar into the sky. Soon, you will get news about this. The two looked at each other. They didn't quite believe it, but they also believed it a little. They also vaguely heard that there was an explosion in the bunker area, which seemed to have destroyed the altar. But if it wasn't done by Tanalu, it would be very debatable. At this time, Amanti stood up. Yes. When the teacher asked me to come over just now, he said that it was Tanalu who blew up the altar and killed the A-level extraordinary genius. Arthurson Weir. Tucker reminded quietly. From the fine grooves engraved on the inner ring of the extraordinary bracelet, Tucker already knew the name of the genius he killed when he got the bracelet. Yes, Arthurson Weir. Amanti nodded seriously. By the way, he also winked at Tucker. Although he didn't know why Tucker said that, since Tucker said that, he had his reasons. Amanti's words undoubtedly brought the matter to a conclusion. After all, the Amanti they were familiar with would not lie to them. Tanaru killed the A-level evil genius Arthurson Weir and blew up the altar. This is quite explosive news. You know. Some time ago, the A-level genius of the Dark Sun Church in the Lamore Tower city-state was widely spread, and almost everyone knew about it. Unexpectedly, the A-level genius of the Dark Sun Church was killed by the guy called Tanaru. For a while, many eyes looked at Tanaru on the small bunker. At this time, Tanaru, who had just finished packing the ritual witchcraft materials, heard the words of Amanti and Tucker. His feet slipped and he almost fell down. In the priest's robe, Tanaru clenched his fists, trembling all over, and even his teeth were trembling. Tucker. Amanti. I really, thank you. Everyone looked at the creator of the small fortress. The tall and majestic body and the extremely cold temperament confronted the death rift. Tanaru. Everyone silently remembered this name. There is no doubt that this will be a name worthy of respect. This is also the name of a strong man. Chapter 60 The Little Mouse Learning to Swim. Inside the small fortress, Tanalu, who was looked at with respect by many people outside, now collapsed on the ground. Since Tucker said so, then this guy must have used his face to expose himself. In other words, whether he admits it or not, Tanalu blew up the altar and killed the A-level evil god genius. It is an ironclad fact. Tanalu now has only one thought. That is, let Tucker turn him into a sheep, and then find an uninhabited valley to retire peacefully. Without paying attention to Tanalu, Tucker looked at Amanti. Amanti is the core of whether he can reach the top resources this time. Tucker asked slowly while thinking. Amanti, can you open a door-frame-sized entrance to the undead realm below? Yes. Continuously absorb a large amount of essence bones and transform them into high-level undead in the undead realm? Is that also possible? That's no problem. Amanti nodded again. That's good. Tucker took a deep breath. Later, you will arrange the undead defense line. During the battle, give those spiritual undead skeletons tasks and let them continuously move the bones to the undead realm. If you encounter a powerful guy, I will deal with it. Understood. Amanti nodded. She vaguely understood what Tucker was going to do. Because of the undead realm, her skeleton undead army can be carried with her. At the same time, the undead realm can also transform and create new undead with high efficiency. But as a necromancer, she used to find it difficult to stockpile enough undead bones and undead supernatural characteristics. It's okay to steal some from the teacher's pile of bones occasionally. If you steal frequently, you will probably be scolded. Moreover, they can basically steal bones with relatively weak supernatural characteristics. But now, here, it's completely different. The alien dimension of the undead rift is a natural breeding ground for undead creatures. Not only does it have a large number of high-quality bones, but the bones also have a large number of undead characteristics. These two are indispensable conditions for creating high-level undead. Now, she builds a defense line, and Tucker helps her kill the powerful undead that threaten the defense line. If they cooperate well, her undead creatures, both in number and strength, will snowball. It is really possible to defend the undead rift for a long time. Not to mention other things, just defend it for a week. The harvested undead materials will be extremely amazing. The reason why the teacher is so rich. Isn't it because the teacher can perfectly harvest the resources here every time? The construction of the undead tower and the resources sent from the undead rift probably played a significant role. What about me? At this time, Tanilu stood up. As a priest, you recover very quickly. Tucker glanced and said slowly. Staring at Tucker with his eyes, Tanilu took a deep breath. Things have come to this, what else can I do? I will help you now, and let me go after the Ash's dark tide. No problem. Tucker nodded. Then what should I do? Tanilu asked again. Tucker raised his hand and put an item in Tanilu's hand. Tanilu looked down. He was happy at first, but then he realized that this thing was definitely a hot potato. The Earth-Rune ring staff. A rare and precious ring staff. He had accumulated materials for so many years, but he couldn't save up such a treasure. Needless to say, it must have exploded from the hands of that A-level genius. As long as he used this thing, it would be 100% proof that he couldn't get rid of the responsibility. Proof or not? Does it matter now? Tanilu's mentality now highlights one thing: lie down. I'll lend you the things for the time being. With the blessing of the runes, the strength of the source pattern barrier will be stronger. Add the witchcraft of source energy recovery, mental recovery, and energy recovery to us. No strong recovery is needed, and the long-lasting form is better. This will be a fierce battle. In addition, add the spells of nurturing to me. After Tucker finished speaking, he walked towards the second floor of the small bunker. Amanda, on the other hand, had already sat cross-legged, following the small window Tucker had left for him to cast spells, and went down to the cracked rock valley below to build the entrance and exit of the undead territory. Nurturing spells. This guy is really trying to break free. Lamor's big ship is going to sink, and the little mice must either learn to swim on their own or start looking for floating objects. Otherwise, they will all become Lamor's burial objects. Taniru speculated maliciously. Obviously, he hasn't learned to swim yet. Although he made a lot of malicious speculations, Taniru still honestly completed the long-threaded spell for Tucker. His Night Elf priest skills were basically stripped away by Tucker. If he dared not to buff Tucker today, the demon would take him to eat shabu shabu mutton hot pot tomorrow, and he would be the shabu shabu mutton. Fortress, second floor, in front of the small window. Tucker, who finally had time to rest, breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Taniru's long-threaded spell fell. Although the effect was not very strong, it lasted for a long time. After sorting out the many things that happened today in his mind, Tucker gradually gathered his mind. The steam core is in hand. But my own preparation is still a little short, well, to be precise, a lot short. To completely break free from the ecological protection of the Lamor steam tower, this is the first step. The second step is to absorb enough wizard sequence power to make my wizard ecology stable enough. The third step is to complete the steam upgrade with materials in the right position. For now, to completely remove the dark sun pollution in my body and break free from Lamor's protection is the most important. Glancing at the undead crack, many other spellcasters were on full alert. Tucker sat cross-legged steadily and began to clean up the remaining pollution sources in his body. With his two-story small fortress, it is much safer than the positions of other spellcasters. While cleaning up the remaining pollution sources of the wizard ecology, Tucker also borrowed the power of the breeding of the Dark Knight Priest and used precision correction to continuously cut the protection of the Lamor Tower ecology to himself. Shelter is the extraordinary characteristic of the ecology of the Lamor Tower. It resists the erosion of the ash dark tide, resists the shining of the ash moon, and acts as a barrier to prevent the pollution of the ecology of the Dark Sun Church. Shelter is the essential core of the establishment of the Lamor Tower city-state. Normally, the way to escape from the shelter is after reaching the peak of the first level. Continuously try to escape from the Lamor Tower at a longer distance. Every time you notice that the state is abnormal, you must return to Lamor in time. After repeated attempts, you can gradually break free from shelter. But this process takes a year or even 2 or 3 years. Tucker doesn't have that much time. Then he can only use the method of forcibly pulling the tube. Using the powerful precision correction, Tucker constantly cuts the shelter of the Lamor ecology to himself. This method is quite fast. The side effects are also immediate. Every time a strand of veins is cut, Tucker feels that his soul and body have suffered damage that cannot be described in words. That is a life-level injury that takes time to heal. Of course, you can also use the priest's nurturing to heal. And this is why Tucker captured 10 strong men. Cut a large number of shelter veins again. Life is passing. The priest's nurturing has played a catalytic role in Tucker's healing, which is much faster than Tucker's own slow recovery before. In the state of cleaning and recovery, Tucker is immersed in it. Time is constantly passing. When the projection of the undead rift is wide enough to run 3 cars, the foreign undead disaster broke out. Chapter 61. This is what witchcraft is like. Death was constantly colliding and annihilating. Bones were constantly piled up and trampled. The fights of the undead gathered into a beautiful symphony, presenting a long line of performance, gradually pushing towards a dense climax. Finally, when this performance was close to the peak, it was interrupted in the constant shaking. Tucker, wake up. Tucker slowly opened his eyes and pushed away Tanalu, who was shaking him madly. This guy wanted to push him down deliberately. What's going on? Tucker rubbed his eyebrows. This guy really knows how to pick the time. He was only a little short of being able to completely remove the pollution of the dark sun. As a result, he was shaken awake by Tanalu. Fortunately, he did not have obsessive-compulsive disorder, otherwise Tanalu would have seen some blood today. It's a bit difficult to hold on. Tanalu pointed outside. It's only been a little more than a day since the outbreak of the undead. Didn't you say that you can hold on for 2 or 3 days? Besides, I didn't feel any danger at all. Tucker frowned slightly. When he stood up and looked outside. You don't know until you see it. At first glance. Good fellow, the slowest ones are the front row, right? Tucker remembered that when he was sitting cross-legged to clean up, the front ledges on both sides of the valley were crowded with spellcasters and necromancers. Tucker and others were basically at the back. As a result, in just one day, all the spellcasters ran to the back. Now, this second-floor small fortress has become a veritable front-row fortress. Moreover, those spellcasters are still quite far away from the fortress. The current situation highlights an isolated and helpless situation. And around the small fortress, the floating undead creatures are constantly attacking the fortress. Fortunately, this is a wall from the Great Barrier World. If it were an ordinary wall, these soul-based undead would probably be able to shuttle over and claim lives in a minute. The talent points of Amandi below also seem to be all on the skeleton-based undead. There is nothing he can do about these soul-based undead. As for Tanaru, as a priest, he has a hammer of damage. This time, the ash tide is very special, and the number of undead creatures is quite large. Especially these undead creatures, their attacks are very fierce, and those undead wizards lack effective means of restraint, so they slipped away on the spot, a group of cowards who are greedy for life and afraid of death. Tanalu cursed. Tucker glanced at the more flexible undead creatures outside. He stood up and moved his hands and feet a little, and fixed his eyes on the floating undead. I can let you run 40 meters first. What? You don't run? That's embarrassing. Tucker raised his hand and a kerosene bomb was released. The kerosene bomb, which contained a sacred breath and had special fire damage, exploded when it touched the undead. Then, the soul-type undead was directly ignited by the large piece of kerosene attached to it. The ignited undead soul let out a shrill scream, jumped up and down, and flew everywhere, showing a burning urgency. He even rubbed some kerosene on the 2 unlucky ghosts he encountered. The 2 ghosts rubbed with kerosene also let out sharp screams. Soon, the ghost that was set on fire stopped running because it was completely burned to death by Tucker's flames. The attached kerosene fell with the death of the ghosts, spread on the ground, continued to glow and heat, and burn the densely packed ghost skeletons on the ground. Tucker's move obviously deterred the attacking ghost creatures. Maybe they don't have much wisdom, but they know what fear is. The sharp screams and wails of their kind just now were fear. As kerosene bombs flew out one after another. One by one, the ghosts were ignited with ghost fire, flying freely in the air, and bringing kerosene to a farther place. This. Tucker's witchcraft undoubtedly challenged Tanaru's cognition again. Even Amandi, who had resolved the crisis, looked up from the small staircase. Your fireball, how? Tanaru gestured in the air with his hands, although Tucker didn't know what he was gesturing. Can it attach to the creatures of the dead soul system, and even, the burning of the flames can cause such severe damage to them? Looking at the ghost fires performing acrobatics in the air, Tucker said lightly. First of all, it's called a kerosene bomb, not a fireball. Secondly, isn't that what witchcraft is like? Tanaru opened his mouth, feeling that his IQ was insulted. Damn, witchcraft is not like this. Tanaru refuted fiercely in his heart. Looking at the undead who were attached to the kerosene and continuously burned, Tucker used the precise and in-depth insight of the attachment ability of the kerosene bomb, and then used the system to strengthen it. Combined with the spear of shaping light, it formed a perfect linkage. The burning and blooming is the holy light, which is a natural counter to the undead. What? You don't have the SSS-level extraordinary talent to see the details of the witchcraft sequence and use the system to strengthen it? Oh. That's fine. Soon, the ghost creatures floating around were cleaned up by Tucker's fireballs. Not to mention those nearby ghosts who were like iron-headed kids, fighting to the death. Even those ghosts who wanted to escape could not escape Tucker's accurate fire oil bombs. With the death of dozens of ghost creatures, Amanda stabilized the front line again. The front row was heavy shield skeletons. Behind the shield skeletons were a certain number of skeleton archers. Behind them were some undead spellcasters. In order to protect those undead spellcasters, Tanniru even put shields on those undead. A very standard formation, with the support of the undead realm behind and a high-efficiency conversion. Amanda defended it perfectly. How was the harvest? Tucker stuck his head out, followed the small staircase, and looked down at Amanda. Very good. Amanda nodded. Except for the initial confusion, now facing the situation of the army approaching, Amanda can calmly control his army of undead. Those ordinary white skeleton undead don't have many extraordinary characteristics. But those silver skeletons can produce extraordinary characteristics of the undead system to a certain extent. Those skeletons with a little golden luster, the undead characteristics condensed after killing, are even better. These 3 shadow materials are specially for you. Amanda threw the things up. Tucker caught them skillfully, observed them carefully, and then put all 3 things away. The 3 crystals are all condensed shadow characteristics. The levels are also in the range of level 13 to 16. If you give me a few more shadow materials, combined with the shadow characteristics of leader level quality, the shadow ring can be upgraded to the 3rd level. Ordinary shadow characteristics, which are deposited in them, can only be used as experience for upgrading and become a stepping stone. As a leader quality shadow characteristic, it is naturally a sharp spear. It can make extraordinary equipment complete the transformation of class. Tucker looked at the army of undead skeletons outside. What he saw was no longer danger, but the raw materials of shadow walking. The dark and dead ecological environment of the foreign undead can also breed shadow characteristics. Tucker asked Amanda to kill a large number of skeleton undead, which was relatively easy to get the raw materials of shadow characteristics. Once this village is missed, it will be very difficult to get the shadow characteristics again. Tucker sat down again. He went to feel the wizard ecology. First, there were those who still had some residual dark sun pollution. The extremely thin pollution, under the illumination of the sequence phantom of the spear of shaping light, even if Tucker himself did not take the initiative to clean it up, it would be burned clean by the holy light in a few days. The problem of dark sun pollution has basically been solved. Secondly, it is Tucker's struggle to break free from the shelter characteristic of the steam ecology of the Lamore Tower. I don't know if it is because of the nurturing and recovery spells of Tanniru's priest. Or is it because Tucker is suffering from the impact of the alien ecology? Or maybe it's both. It's only been a day or so. Tucker found that the effect of breaking free from the mother ecology shelter is surprisingly good. It's comparable to the effect of the previous week. This undead rift area is just the right time. In 2 days, at most 3 days, I can almost break free from my dependence on the protection of the Lamore ecology. By then, even if the Lamore steam tower is polluted, I won't be distorted and out of control on the spot and become Lamore's burial object. Thinking this, Tucker rubbed his eyebrows. The confrontation between extraordinary ecologies has always been so tragic. The pond is polluted, how can the fish in it survive? Raising his head, Tucker looked up. There was the dark top of the cave wall. But through the tower ecology in his own veins, Tucker could see that the Lamore Tower steam city was constantly being eroded by the power of the dark sun. When Tucker arrived at the cave, it was also the time when the dark sun ritual broke out. During that period, the speed of pollution erosion was the fastest. Now, the speed has been getting slower and slower. However, the scope of erosion is already not small. Tucker is not sure about the results of this stage. He can only wait for Lord Aubrey to come back and tell him the situation. What can be done is to make a lot of money here. After all, no one knows if there will be such an opportunity in the future. If Lord Aubrey comes and tells him not to run away, this harvest is a sure win. If he runs away, Taniluko will be by his side. Tucker believes that this guy should have planned an escape route long ago. At the very least, Tucker himself has an escape plan. A real wizard, when facing danger, must have 2 preparations, no, 3 preparations. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Knowing a Little Bit of Everything. Facts have proved that when there is a big guy who can hold on in front, the scumbag can also do well. Undead Rift. Today is the 5th day. Normally, on the 2nd and 3rd days, when a certain number of level 20 dead soul undead begin to roam here, the many defenders here will start to move in. But this time, it was a little different. The reason is that this time there is a big guy in the defense. That big guy can not only easily kill those undead soul creatures with the ability to fly and float, but also can block the powerful leader level creatures. You know, it is very difficult for extraordinary people of the same level to compete with leader level creatures. Yesterday, that is, on the 4th day, a level 28, 6 or 7 meters long leader level bone dragon appeared. From the characteristics of the golden textured bones all over the body, it can be seen that this leader level bone dragon is not ordinary powerful. But even so, the bone dragon was suppressed by the big guy in the 2nd floor fortress. The exquisite spell linkage. The violent explosion caused by the light spell, the binding and suppression of a large number of vines, the burning of flames, etc. It was simply an art exhibition of witchcraft. In the end, with the joint efforts of everyone, the bone dragon was killed. And the extraordinary material of the leader level bone dragon naturally fell into the hands of the boss. There was no objection to this. With a boss, everyone's thoughts were instantly clear, and they just had to follow him. Although the boss never showed up on the 2nd floor of the fortress, everyone knew who the boss was. Teneru, yes, it's me. On the 2nd floor of the small bunker, Tucker, who was sitting cross-legged, slowly opened his eyes. The first thing Tucker did was to look up. Yesterday, after Tucker and everyone joined forces to kill the powerful bone dragon leader, Tucker noticed that the erosion of the Lamor steam tower by the Dark Sun had stopped. The power of the steam tower and the power of the Dark Sun seemed to be in a stalemate. After staring for a moment, Tucker retracted his gaze. The stalemate is still not much different from yesterday. The top leaders of the Lamor city-state should have initially controlled the situation, which is not easy. After all, this is the erosion plan that the Dark Sun Church has been planning for a long time. That is to say, Lord Aubrey is coming soon. Then, Tucker's eyes narrowed slightly. My steam sequence should also enter the starting stage. Concentrating his mind, Tucker looked at his wizard ecology. After a few days of meditation here, Tucker's dark sun pollution has been completely dispelled. In the process of dispelling, Tucker even used precision correction to observe and feel the characteristics of dark sun to a certain extent. Dark sun can only be said to be quite strange and dangerous. However, Tucker also figured out some of the characteristics of dark sun. At least in the next confrontation, Tucker has more experience. Secondly, Tucker's wizard ecology has completely broken away from the protection of the mother ecology of the Lamor steam tower. However, Tucker still retains some of the protection veins of the steam tower for himself. In this way, Tucker will be able to better understand the situation of the Lamor steam tower, absorb more wizard characteristics and stabilize the wizard ecology at the same time. Then we can welcome the steam upgrade. Steam upgrade. It is the essential transformation of the sequence. The basic characteristics of the wizard sequence alone cannot support the steam wizard sequence. Tucker must obtain enough wizard characteristics. In fact, Tucker really has so many wizard characteristics. From Arthurson, Tucker obtained 16 first-level wizard sequence crystals and 5 second-level wizard sequence crystals. As for the extraordinary characteristics of the apprentice wizard, there are none. The extraordinary characteristics of the apprentice wizard are easy to digest and should have been digested by Arthurson. And these first-level wizard characteristics are not easy to digest. Tucker estimated that Arthurson should want to use the power of the steam sequence to digest these wizard characteristics when the steam is upgraded. I can try to digest these first-level wizard characteristic crystals. But each characteristic crystal contains a strong source of dark sun pollution. For Arthurson, this is a tonic. But for me, It is a real poison. Taking it and digesting it actively is like inviting the evil god to possess you. Alchemist. Tucker had a solution in his mind. If he didn't complete the processing of these wizard characteristics, he wouldn't be able to sell them. Those merchants are not stupid, they won't accept these polluted things. While thinking, Tucker looked down. He saw that Amanda was concentrating on controlling the undead. Even with Tanaru's mental recovery, source energy recovery, and energy recovery, the long-term control of the undead realm and the control of the undead was squeezing out the potential inner soul bit by bit. Maybe the battles in the past few days were a bit tormenting for her, but it would benefit her a lot. Tanaru. Tucker looked at Tanaru. What's the matter? Tanaru, who was standing by, responded without even opening his eyes. Do you know an alchemist? Tucker asked, and Tanaru finally opened his eyes. Isn't that the one in front of you? You're an alchemist. Tucker raised his eyebrows. To be precise, I'm an alchemist apprentice, although I don't have the professional talent of an alchemist. But my knowledge and alchemy skills in this area are not weak. You should know that many students in the tower will learn as much as possible, and there is no such opportunity outside. Once you leave Lamor, you will understand how safe the Lamor Tower is. We, the Night Priests, can't find patients to treat every day. Alchemy can improve our understanding of the extraordinary properties of various substances. Tanalu's words made Tucker look up to him. It must be said that the guy who came out of the tower is still quite capable. I thought your secondary job would be a pharmacist. Tucker said. In fact, I know more about potions than alchemy. After all, I am a priest, and knowing the pharmacology of extraordinary potions is a basic skill. Potions combined with spells can better treat patients. Touching on his own expertise, Tanalu was extremely confident at this time. Good guy. Tucker laughed. You really know a little bit of everything. In that case, you have to do something next. Help you use alchemy to dispel the dark sun pollution in the wizard's characteristics. Tanalu is a smart man. But he answered wrong. No. Tucker shook his head. It's to teach me the basic alchemy techniques. I will dispel the dark sun pollution in the wizard's characteristics myself. Tanalu wanted to refuse, but now he obviously didn't have the qualifications to refuse. At this moment, Tucker suddenly felt something. Then, Tucker stood up. The next moment. Ga-ga-ga-ga. Undead ravens flew in from the distant passage, covering the sky. Immediately, all the undead wizards and spellcasters in the passage became solemn. The controller of the undead tower, the terminator of the undead rift, Lord Aubrey has arrived. Chapter 63 The Secret of Lamor. A large number of undead ravens gathered, and the death fog gathered. The undead wizard Aubrey walked out of the death fog. Greetings, Master Aubrey, mentor. Everyone, whether far or near, bowed and saluted. Even Amanda in the small fortress gave up the control of the undead and stood up to salute. Since the mentor is here, there is no need for them to defend hard. As these undead creatures began to move towards level 25, Amante's defense is now very difficult. After looking around, Master Aubrey slowly spoke. Lamor Tower has currently curbed the erosion of the dark sun. Non-undead tower personnel, each return to your own tower. Following the order of the undead wizard Aubrey. Those students from other towers who either received orders to defend or came to take the opportunity to gain some experience and other benefits left one after another. Soon, there were only more than 10 people left in this defense area. Except for Tucker and Tanalu, all of them were undead wizards. Aubrey waved his hand, and several undead fog whirls appeared in the Rock Valley passage below. Skeleton soldiers of more than 40 levels continued to pour out from the undead mistless vortex. With Lord Aubrey here, it is not a problem to defend the undead rift. After doing all this, come here. Aubrey walked towards a cave passage on the side. Everyone followed him. Are we going to? In the small fortress, Tanalu seemed a little reluctant. Either be turned into sheep here, or go together. Tucker walked down and said lightly. Then it's better to go. At least you can die with a clear mind. Tanalu clenched his fist and whispered. He is a smart man. Lord Aubrey came here after such a long time since the undead rift. The situation of the Lamor Tower city-state must not be good. And as a member of the betrayal of Lamor, he might be sacrificed today. Deep in the crypt cave, there is a small meeting room. The wall lamp is lit by the flames condensed by the undead witchcraft. Except for a small amount of crackling of the flames. The meeting room is terribly silent. In the past few days, everyone has also received some news more or less. although the source of the news is not sure. But most of the news was not good. This time, Lamore suffered heavy losses. Aubrey's voice was a little hoarse and rough. Everyone held their breath and looked over. Lamore's city wall lighthouse defense line was basically destroyed, and a large number of lighthouse night watchmen died in battle. Afterwards, those evil people attacked the Lamore underground nest area, and a large number of extraordinary people were captured or killed. Although the underground nest area is relatively barren, it has always been a key population area for the Lamore Tower. It can be said to be the source of fresh blood for the Lamore Tower. This time, the underground nest area suffered heavy losses. In addition, the source pool of the steam tower has also been polluted to a certain extent. Lamore can be regarded as a foundation damaged. If the steam tower source pool cannot complete self-cleaning and purification, the situation is very likely to deteriorate further. Following Lord Aubrey's explanation, everyone in the conference room was silent. This situation was almost the worst situation that everyone could think of. No matter what direction Lamore will take next. Aubrey's voice was as cold and hoarse as ever. Your next task is very simple, that is, in the next period of time, while maintaining the safety of the undead tower, you must work hard to improve your strength. Looking around at everyone, the undead wizard Aubrey began to issue tasks. Philia, your next task is to patrol the area. Everyone received their own tasks, even Amanda had the task of clearing the Riptide. As the people who were carrying out the tasks continued to leave, soon, only Lord Aubrey, Tucker, and Tanalu were left in the meeting room. The undead wizard Aubrey seemed to be thinking about something. Tucker sat steadily in the corner. Tanalu, who was standing by, felt a torment. After a while, Aubrey opened his deep eyes and looked at Tucker. Did you get the steam collar? Yes. Tucker nodded. Not bad. Aubrey's face showed the only smile he had had in recent days. If possible, I would be happy to take you to the steam furnace and steam sequence of the steam tower, guide the power of the steam tower, and help you complete the steam upgrade. But now, the steam tower is doing its best to resist erosion. If you want to be promoted here in Lamore, I'm afraid you have to rely on your own strength. I understand. Tucker nodded carefully. To be honest, although Tucker also had the idea of relying on the steam tower, but Tucker was also prepared not to rely on the steam tower at all. After all, SSS-level talent is not a decoration. When external forces cannot be relied on, then rely on talent. In addition, Aubrey looked at Tucker carefully. I have something private to tell you. Tanalu, who was standing aside, he breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. After all, once Lord Aubrey blamed him, he would be the first person to be sacrificed. Now it seems that Lord Aubrey obviously doesn't care about his intentions. Tanalu stood up, saluted, and retreated quickly. Wait until Tanalu escaped from the meeting room. Aubrey then looked at Tucker. How are you going to deal with him? Although this guy betrayed Lamore, he has now taken enough blame. It's a good choice to let him attract attention and attention. After all. Tucker paused. The real traitor of Lamore has not been found. Tucker's words made Aubrey's heart move slightly. After a long while, Aubrey nodded slightly. Yes. The traitor has never shown up from beginning to end. When we opened the steam door, the traitor not only escaped, but also wiped out his traces completely. The reason I kept you here is, can you help us find the traitor again? In Aubrey's expectant eyes, Tucker answered sincerely and straightforwardly. Sorry, Lord Aubrey, I can't do it. The last time I found that A-level evil genius, it happened to be at a crossroads. That feeling is like a certain intersection of fate. In addition to that A-level evil genius, I met several wizards with good talents. It is precisely because that evil genius did not digest the power of the dark sun perfectly that I was able to see it. If it was that old wizard, even if he stood in front of me, I wouldn't be able to see much. Aubrey listened quietly. Intersection of fate. Such an opportunity is indeed rare, and it happens to be this intersection of fate. It can be said that you have saved Lamore to a certain extent. But Aubrey looked at Tucker and said nothing more. He believed that with Tucker's keen insight, he didn't need to say more. Tucker should have known it. Taking a deep breath, Aubrey slowly calmed his mind. After a long time, he looked at Tucker again. I have another very important reason to talk to you about. That is that Lamore has his own secret, and it is a very shocking big secret. There are very few people who know this secret. Over the years, only me, Bailey, Oswaya and Lamore know it. At present, it is uncertain how long Lamore can exist. According to the instructions of Count Larmor, this secret can be known and explored by more people. You are one of the people I have chosen. Whether you can explore it depends on your own ability, means, and luck. Larmor's secret? Tucker's mood suddenly rose to a higher level. Before this, Tucker had never known that Larmor actually had an unknown secret. After a little contemplation, Aubrey's slightly rough and hoarse voice sounded. Listen carefully, in Larmor's Chapter 64 I can hold on, but not for long. The flame in the wall lamp gradually weakened. Tucker, sitting on a high-back chair, gradually disappeared into the shadows. Steam ring, light, angel. A lot of information, connected in a string, roared in Tucker's mind. The secret of Larmor is indeed shocking enough. No wonder why Earl Larmor is willing to hold on here for so many years. After all, compared with several other city-states deep in the Ashland, the geographical location of the Larmor Tower city-state is not good. Tucker raised his head and looked up, looking in the direction of the Larmor steam tower. That secret. I don't know if I can touch it. Just as Tucker was thinking, Aubrey's voice sounded again. Didn't Schiller invite you to participate in the exploration of the Demon King's tomb? Yes. Tucker nodded. Xyluer is the student that Larmor is most proud of. She is very smart, and more importantly, she is very strong. As far as I know, no one seems to dare to set foot in the delicious cake of the Demon King's tomb. But we all know that those Dark Sun believers hidden in the crowd are definitely eager to seal the Demon King. After all, the Demon King sequence itself is consistent with the Dark Sun pollution. Someone will definitely make a fuss about it. Although, Aubrey looked at Tucker. You have a keen sense of smell that can see through the enemy. But there are always some things that exist beyond your perception. So when you participate in this Demon King's tomb operation, you must be careful. The Dark Sun believers must be hiding in it. Tucker nodded carefully. Yes, Mr. Aubrey, I remember it. Tucker had originally decided on the operation of the Demon King's tomb. Contacting the second layer and developing better are the key points. Whoever dares to obstruct will die. Aubrey looked at Tucker and praised him slowly. It's rare to have incredible talents at your age, but it's not uncommon. But it's rarer to have such a humble heart than a talent like yours. After saying that, Aubrey took out an extraordinary storage bracelet. The undead raven beside him carried it and dropped it next to Tucker. It contains the promotion materials for steam wizards. Of course, you need to prepare these things such as wizard characteristics yourself. Remember, the ecology must be stable enough before you can upgrade. Otherwise, the status of the steam sequence will cause tearing damage to the wizard ecology. If it were his other apprentices and disciples, Aubrey would definitely not be so relieved. But Tucker, this man who killed the genius of the Evil God organization alone and blew up the Evil God altar to the sky. If he was allowed to act alone, the effect would only be better. Thank you, Teacher Aubrey. Feeling the rough, cold and heartwarming extraordinary storage bracelet, Tucker stood up and saluted Aubrey carefully. Outside the cave entrance, Amanti, who was a little curious, looked inside from time to time. It wasn't long after everyone went in for the meeting. Tucker had been chatting with the teacher for almost half an hour. If Tucker becomes the teacher's official disciple, he will definitely be the chief disciple, and he will even inherit the Undead Tower in the future. Tanalu, who was standing by, was checking the small iron box. It contained a lot of dark materials, which was exactly what she needed as a night elf priest. And these materials were the rewards for guarding the undead passage for so many days. There were about 150 magic golds, which was a pretty good income. Just when Amanti was thinking about it, Tucker, who was thinking about the problem with his head down, came out. Tucker, what's wrong? Amanti asked curiously. What else can we do? The Larmor steam tower can't hold on. At most, it can hold on for another half a month, and then Larmor will be finished. Tanalu, who was standing by, answered. What? How is this possible? Amanti was stunned. Tucker glared at Tanalu, and then comforted Amanti. Don't listen to his nonsense. The pollution and erosion of Larmor have been controlled, and there are strong men from Saint Land here to help. Does that mean Larmor is fine? Amanti looked over. With so many people helping, Larmor can at least resist for another month and a half. Tucker said firmly. Amanti. Now Amanti's ability to accept is different from before. Combined with the many experiences during this period, and then carefully recalling the teacher's words just now, and the many tasks arranged under the guidance of Tucker and Tanalu. At this time, I gradually understood that it might be true. After calming down a little, Amanda looked at Tucker. These days, I have collected a lot of undead characteristics and materials. After speaking, Amanda took out a black metal box. There are about half of the materials collected during this period in it. Most of them are death characteristic materials, and a small part are shadow materials. Death and shadow materials. Tucker raised his eyebrows slightly. These are all excellent materials for extraordinary alchemy. Needless to say, materials with shadow characteristics are needed for Tucker's rune shadow ring staff. And the death characteristic is also of great value. It can strengthen the damage characteristics of the rune shadow ring staff. Death characteristic is one of the most intuitive characteristics to increase damage characteristics. Tucker took the small iron box, and his sense of touch blossomed. The materials inside are almost full. The preliminary estimate is no less than 800 magic gold, and it is possible to have more than 1,000. Guarding the undead rift channel, this harvest is indeed quite amazing. While Tucker put the iron box into the storage bracelet, he took out the fist-sized material containing the leader-level undead dragon crystal bone. When he killed the level 28 dragon bone leader, Tucker immediately collected this core material. After all, there were many people and eyes at that time, and it was possible that someone would do something dirty. This thing is well kept. Tucker stuffed the leader-level undead dragon crystal bone into Amanda's hand. This thing is too valuable, I'm afraid. Tucker didn't give her a chance to refute. In a little while, I'm afraid we will all have to leave Lamore. Outside, you can't survive without some powerful means. Besides, even if this material is given to me, it would be a pure waste with my undead talent. In your hands, this material can play its greatest value. After all, Amanda still accepted the material, and in her gentle smile, she couldn't cover up a trace of gloom. Then I'll go and get busy first. Amanda waved her hand and turned into the darkness. Looking at Amanda, who was leaving and gradually disappearing into the depths of darkness, Taniru's voice slowly sounded. The girl is a good girl, but unfortunately, she met the wrong person. Tucker took a deep breath, looked over, and said slowly, "Let's eat mutton tonight." Taniru's expression instantly seemed to be stepped on by his tail. During this period, Tucker behaved too normally, so that he subconsciously forgot that this guy was a complete devil. You'd better be well prepared and teach me the basics of alchemy as quickly as possible. Otherwise, please believe me, you won't like the outcome. Tucker walked forward. The figure intertwined with the shadows looked like a demon. Taniru was half discouraged and followed. Now, Lamore on the surface is probably in a state of confrontation with the Dark Sun. Underground, skeletons, rats, ogres, and goblins are rampant. It's impossible to escape in a short time. As his reputation as Taniru spread, if anyone dares to show his face, I'm afraid those Dark Sun Church believers hiding in the crowd will rush up like crazy and die with him. Follow Tucker and teach him alchemy, and there is still a slight chance of survival. Chapter 65 Godlike Existence. The second floor of the Undead Tower. A guest room was converted into an alchemy room. On the long table, there was a football-sized furnace crucible with the bottom fire lit. Next to it, the source energy steam engine that had completed the source energy charging was in operation, transferring part of the heat energy converted from the source energy to the furnace crucible through the resonance crystal. Soon, the fluffy flame in the furnace crucible turned into a thick and sharp flame as thick as a thumb, rising more than 2 meters high. Tucker looked at the source energy steam engine in front of him with a little curiosity. It was the size of a computer case and had an extremely complex structure. It had a matte black luster throughout, and had 6 small source energy extractors on the outside. There should be a magic closed loop of high-pressure activation of source energy inside, which was maintained by the extraordinary characteristics of the solid state. Activate and obtain source energy steam, follow the industrial level spell veins, and complete the output of various energy forms. There are various types of energy that can be converted, depending on what kind of conversion device with extraordinary characteristics is matched. Thermal energy, ice energy, wind energy, kinetic energy, flight, invisibility, etc. are all possible. Thanks to the source energy steam engine. The roar of steam trains, steam ships, and even steam airships resounds in almost every corner of the world. It is said that in those prosperous and high-level extraordinary worlds, steam floating island, this kind of miracle-like existence has been realized by the humans there. The outside world sounds beautiful. However, chaos always runs through the veins of the world. Pirate groups and air pirate groups are emerging in endlessly all over the world. The steam daily of the Principality of Syrians. Every once in a while, the results of combating pirates and air pirates will be announced. Combined with a high bounty for pirates and air pirates, it can also be seen to a certain extent that the outside world is not as wonderful as imagined. The alchemical essence of extraordinary materials is to remove harmful impurities in the materials, and even to supplement the beneficial extraordinary properties in the materials to a certain extent. After examining the flame, alchemy apprentice Tanaru told Tucker the basic knowledge of alchemy. Remember, high temperature will melt a material itself, and will also greatly activate the extraordinary properties. If you don't master it properly, it will explode. Tucker on the side responded, "Yes, explode." Tanalu nodded. Precise control of flames is the prerequisite for alchemy. Many people joke that alchemy is just burning a furnace. I can tell you clearly that this is not a joke. The essence of alchemy is to burn a furnace. Those complex processes, techniques, and methods, everything is to purify the essential extraordinary properties of the material, or to integrate extraordinary properties in a more perfect proportion. And all of this must be coordinated with the temperature of the flame. Even with different extraordinary properties, the special, extraordinary flame, condensed for smelting and coordination. If you can't accurately control the temperature of the flame, even if you are given the best process, you can't become an alchemist. Tucker nodded. Although Tucker also learned this information through Eden Gladstone's alchemy notes and corresponding alchemy books. But what are the key points, what need to be paid attention to, as well as many small skills, experience, etc.? These are all things that require practical guidance from an alchemist in order to better learn and master them. Although Tanalu is an apprentice, he teaches for free, and this alone is enough. Touch the soul. Tucker put one hand on the source energy touch surface of the source energy storage compartment. Precision, correction, the source energy steam engine, which was slightly aging, had a slightly disordered and roaring source energy supply, and instantly became smooth and natural. Huh? Tanalu, who was standing by, noticed this scene. Tanalu looked carefully. He found that the source energy steam level, the operation of the inner furnace, the source energy supply, the resonance vibration, the energy extraction, etc. at this time had become almost perfect. Tanalu looked at Tucker with a surprised face. This small precision source energy steam engine is an old guy that has been eliminated from the Undead Tower for who knows how many times. I'm not sure if it can be used. How did you do it? After thinking for a while, Tucker said truthfully, I have the talent of precision and the ability to touch the soul. Precision? Touch the soul? Tanalu frowned slightly. Contact the source energy steam engine and transmit precise characteristics? But it's not so bad that the old source energy steam engine can run so perfectly. This kid is really unscientific. Tanalu muttered secretly. The ability to touch spirits combined with a precise talent is indeed more suitable for alchemy. At this time, Tanalu also became a little serious. So, you have to teach well. Tucker smiled. After all, in the future, when you leave Lamor, walk in the extraordinary world, and even explore foreign lands, it's better to have more skills. Looking at Tucker and then at the old source energy steam engine that Tucker controlled, no one knew how long this thing could last. Tanalu didn't waste time and began to explain in detail. Controlling the supply of source energy can increase or decrease the temperature of the flame. Yes, that's it. Don't release an energy segment all at once, but go down smoothly, so that the effect of the flame temperature change will be very natural. As Tanalu explained. Soon, the temperature of the flame was perfectly controlled in Tucker's hands. Seeing that Tucker could control the temperature of the flame almost perfectly in just a few minutes, Tanner was a little dumbfounded. Could it be that he is really a genius? You know, at the beginning, in order to control the flame, he burned the furnace for half a year. Even now, he may not be able to reach Tucker's level of control. What's next? Feeling the temperature that he precisely controlled, Tucker was very calm. Take out a wizard characteristic and put it into the crucible of the furnace. Control the temperature at the critical temperature of the material melting and keep it. This can melt away certain pollution characteristics and non-wizard characteristics. Make the essential characteristics of the wizard sequence pure and natural. Through the influence of the source energy temperature on the sequence, the non-wizard characteristics are eliminated. Tucker naturally explained the basic formula of alchemy on sequence smelting. Yes. Tanir nodded. Tucker's eyes were slightly condensed, examining the wizard's sequence crystal that was gradually becoming active in front of him. Of course, some pollution was burned inside, and some non-wizard characteristics were also eliminated. But there are still many extraordinary characteristics that cannot be eliminated, and they are very stubborn. Even part of the pollution source is entrenched in it, and it cannot be expelled and burned for a moment. After about 5 or 6 minutes, looking at those non-wizard characteristics that seem to be unable to be eliminated by the flame, Tucker slowly asked, "Some harmful characteristics can be expelled, but what about those harmful parts that cannot be burned and expelled by the source of energy and firepower? Beyond the scope?" Tanniru looked at the wizard characteristics burning in the flame and responded, "Expelling those inaudible harmful extraordinary characteristics is something that only true alchemy masters can do. And as an alchemy apprentice, what you have to do is to control the flame well. Perfectly smelting the basics will basically make you a first-level alchemist. Well, your wizard characteristics seem to have been smelted almost." Tucker's eyes narrowed slightly, and he said calmly, "It looks like it's almost done, but it's far from enough." Taking a deep breath, Tucker quietly began to oscillate the veins of those harmful substances. With Tucker's gentle flick, a very stubborn wisp of harmful substance characteristics was pulled out. At the microscopic level, that wisp of extraordinary characteristics was instantly taken away by the flame. "Interesting." Tucker laughed softly. "Precision, correction. It allows Tucker to perfectly fit the trajectory of the world's veins and make modifications. Before, Tucker's rough applications were very energy-consuming, and the effect was not very good. But now, Tucker seems to have found the correct way to open precision, correction. Precision, correction is originally a precise and meticulous operation. The effect at the macroscopic dimension level is obviously not as good as this meticulous and detailed onlooker operation. I should have understood this when I was exploring the dark sea of origin at the microscopic level before. In alchemy, which requires understanding and observing extraordinary characteristics, as well as the need to carefully control the overall situation, my precision, correction is simply a godlike existence." Chapter 66, Feed on the Same Sequence. In the alchemy room, looking at the first-order wizard characteristics in his hand, Tanilu's eyes almost popped out. This purity, the perfect nature of this sequence, is simply the same as the sequence born on the sequence origin tree. "How did you do it?" Tanilu, holding the wizard characteristics, looked at Tucker. He couldn't believe it. Tucker, a guy who had never taken a day of alchemy class. He used an old source energy steam engine that had been outdated for who knows how many times, and a furnace and crucible that he picked up casually, and actually refined a nearly perfect wizard characteristic crystal. He felt that his worldview was being pressed to the ground by the other party. "Maybe I have a talent in this area." Tucker took the wizard characteristics and observed them carefully, while activating touch perception. A pure and nearly perfect first-order wizard characteristics, Tucker has the wizard ability touch perception, and he is a natural analyzer. Insight into the essence of the world. This is also one of the characteristics of super wizards. At this time, this first-order wizard characteristics that have been smelted, it has reached the level that can be taken directly and quickly digested and absorbed. After putting away this wizard characteristic, Tucker stabilized the source energy steam engine that began to shake on the table again, and began to smelt the second extraordinary characteristic. At this time, Tanilu, who was standing aside blankly, suddenly felt as if he was redundant. Seeing the other party surpass him in the blink of an eye and leaving him far behind, he felt a sense of emptiness and loss. This gap, I am afraid he will never catch up in his lifetime. But soon, Tucker's question pulled him back. "Tanilu, this extraordinary characteristic, I raised the temperature a lot, why can't it reach the critical point of melting? If I continue to raise the temperature, I even feel that this thing is going to explode." Tanilu was a little amused when he heard it. Maybe Tucker's talent is really high. But, after all, he is still a novice who has just started, and his basic theoretical knowledge is not complete. Well, the feeling of finding the value of one's own existence, don't say it, it's really good. Maintain the same temperature as before, time will give you the answer. This wizard prefers the fire system? Has the fire immunity? Need to spend time to open up the flame veins. Tucker understood immediately. Yes. For this fire material, waiting is the best way. Then is there any faster way? Yes. What way? More advanced extraordinary flames, more powerful rune furnace crucibles with the power of sealed runes. Rune furnace crucible? Use rune power to make furnaces. Tucker raised his eyebrows. Yes. This is the world of rich people. Tanalu laughed. Do you want to buy a rune furnace too? Well, I still think it's more suitable for me to burn the furnace honestly. Tucker thought for a while and said seriously. Money is not a problem, the main thing is that I like this feeling of consolidating the foundation. A few days passed quickly while Tucker was burning the furnace. In addition to the daily burning of the furnace, Tucker did not stop trying to break free from the shelter of the Lamore steam ecosystem. With the help of Tanaru's nurturing and recovery spells, although the effect was not as fast as in the undead crack, it was much better than Tucker's own slow recovery. What Tucker cared about most was the barrier. Every day, Tucker would complete a ritual to summon the Great Barrier World, and then absorb, digest, and cut it. Normal people who dared to do this would have long been loyal believers of the Wall. With the replacement of the undead raven, Tucker became more and more unscrupulous. With a barrier as the anchor of Tucker's wizard ecology became visibly stable and heavy. And as the wizard ecology operated naturally and gradually ran smoothly, Tucker also had a new harvest. That was the original Dark Sea, which gradually showed certain anchor characteristics. Whenever Tucker sat cross-legged and meditated, Tucker could feel that the original Dark Sea was constantly drawing the original power from the depths of the original dimension and enhancing the wizard ecology. Although the current size of the origin Dark Sea is only 3 times the size of Tucker's own source pool. But the essential extraordinary characteristics of the two are different. The characteristics of the pool are that even if the volume is large, it is small in essence and easily affected by the outside world. The characteristics of the sea are that even if it looks small, it is essentially large. It is a naturally high-level existence. After all, the source sea itself is the end of the source energy vein. When Tucker observed his own source pool, it was a bowl of calm water. When he observed the origin Dark Sea, it had its own rising and falling tides, its own ocean cyclones, and even its own ocean undercurrents. The essence of the two is completely different. After the self-operation of the origin Dark Sea gradually acquired the characteristics of the sea, the anchoring effect on Tucker was gradually exerted. As long as the origin Dark Sea continues to grow, my wizard ecology will be able to continuously enhance its own ecological strength. Knowing this characteristic of the origin Dark Sea, Tucker naturally began to deliver daily source energy experience. Anyway, the steady development system, anchored to the Demon King's tomb, gives Tucker a stable and large amount of experience every day. Every day, a portion of the source energy experience is sent to expand the origin Dark Sea, which can not only allow the origin Dark Sea to expand steadily, but also not disrupt the source energy operation of the origin Dark Sea itself, and then affect the anchoring of the wizard ecology. In the hut, on the meditation and practice position, Tucker flipped his hand and took out a first-level wizard characteristic. The specific level should be about level 15. After burning the furnace these days, Tucker has melted all the wizard characteristics he has obtained. Even those polluted materials, Tucker has completed the melting. Of course, explosions are inevitable in the process. When Tucker tried to melt a certain strong material, as soon as he touched it, it exploded with a boom like igniting gunpowder. Fortunately, Tucker's wizard robe has a shield, so he is safe and sound. This made Tucker sigh that fortunately this extraordinary world has such protective equipment as wizard robe shields. Otherwise, alchemists are definitely in a high-risk sequence. Put this first-level wizard characteristic into the first-level wizard potion, and after it gradually melted, Tucker drank it in one gulp. Not long after, a feeling of expansion came to his heart. Tucker glanced at it, and sure enough, his body slowly expanded like a balloon, and even his wizard robe was stretched out. Tucker raised his palm, which had become the size of a cattail leaf fan. It is enough for a living body to carry a wizard sequence. At this time, if another wizard sequence is stuffed in, all kinds of weird situations will occur. Tucker closed his eyes again and immersed himself in his wizard ecological sequence. The characteristics of precision, correction, began to play a role. The wizard ecology that re-influenced Tucker's wizard ecology and grew randomly was gradually absorbed by Tucker accurately. Even if there were disobedient parts, Tucker would correct them and incorporate them into his original wizard tree. Fortunately, after my tempering, I have cleared away the pollutants, negative characteristics, and the will of the original owner in this wizard characteristic crystal. Otherwise, if it enters my wizard ecosystem and makes a slight mistake, I will suffer heavy losses. The harm of this wizard characteristic itself is already minimal. With my precision correction, it can basically be digested without damage. Unlike other extraordinary people, swallowing an extra characteristic of the same sequence is like fighting a war. If you lose, you will explode on the spot. If you win, it will take several months to be completely stable. The extraordinary characteristics of the same sequence are extremely dangerous to swallow. But the benefits are also quite huge. Tucker's eyes narrowed slightly. As the second wizard characteristic was gradually swallowed and absorbed by Tucker, the effect has gradually become prominent. Tucker's wizard characteristics have become more and more thick and solid. The entire wizard ecosystem tree and the surrounding spell projections are also more solid than before. Extraordinary people feed on the same sequence. When Tucker was weak before, he didn't have much experience in this regard. As he devoured a super wizard who had worked as hard as himself to cultivate to the first level, this feeling became clearer and more intense. Breathe, breathe. Tucker breathed deeply, and a hideous and twisted smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. Greed, bloodthirstiness, killing, madness. The characteristics buried in Tucker's bones and soul accidentally leaked out during the collision, absorption and fusion of the two wizard sequences. As the absorption and digestion were completed, when Tucker opened his eyes again, his body had returned to normal. While Tucker's wizard tree became thicker, its solidity was also the first existence in the wizard ecosystem. Continue. After feeling it carefully and making sure there was no problem, Tucker took out another wizard characteristic crystal. Chapter 67 Hunter, Female Assassin, Sheep. When the second pill was taken, Tucker's arm became transparent and empty, and even the rune shadow ring on his right wrist pierced through his wrist and fell to the ground. After the absorption was completed, Tucker's arm was restored. The third pill. There was no physical abnormality. But Tucker found that he could not make any sound no matter what, including mouth and nose, movements and slapping, or other methods. Even the sound of the outside world disappeared with Tucker as the boundary. Tucker's extraordinary characteristic communication seemed to have greatly weakened. However, as the digestion was completed, the characteristic gradually returned. One pill after another was taken. Various strange situations appeared as they were taken and ended as the digestion was completed. The grotesque changes of the flesh, the inexplicable loss of the arm, the attenuation of the communication characteristics. The inside of the field of vision was abstract and weird, the source energy was boiling, and the metal hardening of some indescribable parts, etc. With the full absorption of the 12th wizard's specialness, the capacity limit of the peak of the first level wizard has been reached. 12 wizard characteristics, absorbed and fused at once. Normally, it would explode on the spot. However, those negative extraordinary characteristics have been basically solved by me, and there are almost no negative effects, plus the precise correction escort. This is the perfect absorption of 12 wizard characteristics. Now, the strength of my wizard sequence tree is completely different from before. Tucker sat cross-legged on the meditation position. He carefully experienced the changes after the wizard characteristics were greatly enhanced. Although the wizard sequence tree is still level 18, its solidity has exceeded that of most second-level wizard trees. The wizard tree itself is enhanced, plus the strengthening of the iron coupling source wall of the barrier world, and the anchor of the origin dark sea. Now, if I meet the deformed Arthurson again, I can't say that I can completely ignore the pollution. At least, I can withstand his radiation pollution and face the weird dark sun candlelight. Secondly, that's it. Tucker looked at the two wizard abilities on the wizard tree. Sheep transformation, and tactile perception. As the crystallization of the abilities on the wizard tree. These two wizard abilities are enhanced as the wizard characteristics are enhanced. Without level increase, the speed of absorbing and digesting information by touch perception is faster. The sheep transformation level limit of the sheep transformation has also been improved, almost by 3 to 4 levels. Basically, it is difficult for extraordinary people below level 3 to resist my sheep transformation without corresponding immunity, resistance, and sufficient extraordinary ecology. Other witchcraft in the wizard ecology, although the witchcraft itself has not been improved. But after my wizard characteristics were greatly enhanced, all witchcraft has also been enhanced in all aspects. Extraordinary people feed on the same sequence. Eating the sequence characteristics of other extraordinary people, this improvement is indeed huge. Tucker carefully felt the changes inside and out. For me, there are ways to eliminate those unfavorable supernatural characteristics. For other supernaturals, there is no way to solve those incredible supernatural characteristics in the same sequence. Even the top alchemy masters can't do what I do. Not to mention those subtle levels, whether they can see through it. Even if they can see through it, they may not be able to solve it. And I can use the SSS level correction characteristics to solve it perfectly. This alchemy path of purifying supernatural sequence characteristics is a good way to make money. Tucker thought secretly. Gaga. At this time, there was a slight cry of the undead raven outside the window. Tucker looked outside and then straightened up a little. At the same time, the fingers in the wizard robe began to rub slightly. The preparations are almost done. The next step is to sense and resonate the steam collar. This will take a lot of time. After all, I don't have the guidance of the steam tower like Zilor, nor the protection of the altar like Arthurson. I need to slowly grind the steam core and finally complete the absorption. Although it takes a lot of time, the advantage is that after the absorption is completed, I can perfectly exert the power of the steam wizard. This safe method is very suitable for me. Although the cashmere mat in the meditation training position is relatively soft. But after a long time, Tucker's legs are still a little numb. I am not the kind of melee wizard with strong physical strength. The strength and activity of the physical body cannot maintain an action for a long time and still maintain active combat capabilities. Well, when you are promoted to the second level, you have to choose a better life material. This way, I won't fall to the point where when the enemy touches my back, I can't struggle because my legs are numb and I have to surrender. When Tucker was about to get up, a cold and crisp female voice sounded behind Tucker. Don't move. At the same time, the sharp cold light was already at the back of Tucker's neck. If Tucker moved, the sharp cold light, like a cold moon, would separate Tucker's body and head at an extremely delicate angle. A faint smell of blood, mixed with the breath of the dark sun, the wilderness, and the night, lingered at the tip of Tucker's nose. Tucker sniffed out a lot of information. He was wild enough, good at dark combat, and in control of a certain amount of dark sun power. The most important thing was that he was ruthless. Obviously, many people died under this dagger. Tucker, whose life was controlled by others, asked calmly. From the accent, you are not a local, and you are different from those foreigners who pay attention to accents and pomp and like to be poor and superior. You came from the ashland deep in the wilderness. Tucker's answer was that the dagger pressed forward slightly. If Tucker's skin was not tougher than that of an ordinary first-level wizard, this slight pressure would have drawn blood. Okay. Forget it if you don't want to answer. Tucker smiled. Oh. By the way, I forgot to remind you. When you use your penetration ability to avoid my shield, you should also think that I may also avoid your shadow shield and affect you, right? Tucker's words made the female assassin's heart tighten. Tucker moved. The female assassin from the ash wasteland behind Tucker also moved. But the next moment, her face changed drastically. Because she couldn't move. What did he do to me? This wizard, when did he cast the spell? A variety of doubts and horrors flashed in her eyes. The female assassin from the ash wasteland quickly shrank in size and eventually turned into a white sheep from the Hegland Plateau Mountains. BAA. In the nay, there was panic and despair, as well as a powerless struggle. It's quite pretty. Tanalu should like it. Well, I hope that guy hasn't been killed yet. Tucker slowly took out the rope, tied the female assassin's sheep, and walked outside. Tucker had already sensed that this female assassin had used infiltration to enter his house. Tucker, who had just completed a significant improvement in the characteristics of the wizard sequence, simply did a small experiment. Sheep transformation, 4 steps. Envelopment, infiltration, suppression, and deformation. Tucker used envelopment to build a trap around him. Infiltration can perfectly enter the prey's body under precise guidance. When the hunter approached the prey cautiously, little did he know that the hunter was also stepping into the trap step by step. And the final result made Tucker very satisfied. At least this level 25, bold and careful female hunter from the ash wilderness, stepped into the trap unconsciously. Of course, Tucker's life-saving methods are more than these. Even if the sheep transformation technique did not work, some other backup plans were enough to deal with this female assassin from the dark wilderness. Coming to the second-floor hall, Tucker looked at the house where Tanir was. It was calm and natural inside. It seemed that nothing had happened at all. But when Tucker looked closely, He found that his precise vision was disturbed to a certain extent. Not too much but not too little information, scattered in his eyes, made Tucker think deeply. The previous few big scapegoats were put on this guy Tanaru, which really made him a key target, and also made his life more valuable. Those guys didn't kill him right away. Interesting. Thinking about it, Tucker's eyes fell on the female assassin Yang. Take this opportunity to prepare a big gift for them. After groping around on the female assassin Yang, Tucker stood up, took the female assassin Yang, and pushed the door open. Chapter 68 Sheep and Bombs. Pain. Heart-piercing pain. Tanalu knelt on the ground, his shoulders pierced by half-moon hooks. The material used for this half-moon hook has extremely strong source energy suppression and disturbance characteristics. Once the body is pierced, the source energy will be as heavy as leadstone, and even if it is barely mobilized, it will be disturbed. Fortunately, when Tanalu was promoted to the second level, the resistance material was the ogre crystal lattice with pain immunity. Except for the severe pain when it was pierced, the pain is now within the tolerable range. In addition to the piercing of his shoulders, Tanalu didn't know how many punches he had received. His eyes and cheeks were swollen beyond belief. Those guys were completely killing him, and didn't show any mercy at all. If you don't die today, I will scatter your ashes. Tanalu, with anger in his eyes, thought viciously in his heart. Since he took the blame and the news began to spread outside, Tanalu has not slept well. Dark Knight Priest Shadow Wizard, double sequence genius Tanalu, lurked in the Dark Sun Church for many years, killed an A-level Dark Sun Church genius, and even a church genius valued by a Dark Sun bishop. He also betrayed a vice bishop level combat power of the Dark Sun Church, and blew up the Dark Sun altar. With so many buffs stacked, Tanaru was assassinated and died tragically. And today, Tanaru just wanted to take a nap in bed. As a result, the knife was on his neck. Revenge, faster than expected. From the fierce and refined aura, Tanaru could roughly guess that these people should be fanatical believers specially cultivated by the Dark Sun Church in the city-state deep in the ashes. And in response to the violent questioning of the other party, Tanaru only had one word: admit it. I blew up the altar. I also killed the A-level genius Arthurson. Frank Blue? Who is this? Yes, it was me, although I don't know what I did. Yes, you are right. Tanalu's attitude of admitting defeat made the other party's ridicule more exciting. Captain, is this guy the legendary double sequence genius? The double sequence is all on the knees. He kneeled down so quickly. The undisguised wanton mockery was directed at Tanalu's forehead. The short, dream maker, wearing a dark-colored nightmare robe, with slightly dark skin and compact facial features, walked back and forth and looked up and down at Tanalu. He was the most ruthless just now, and Tanalu remembered this firmly. I just gave him a little hint, and this guy just wanted to fall asleep. His vigilance is too low. Or is it that this so-called barrier gave him confidence and made him feel that he could block all dangers? At this time, the captain of this team, the Dark Wizard Garia, was sitting in the single sofa opposite the kneeling Tanalu. Garia, a level 29, Shadow Walker. He has an upright figure and a high nose bridge, and obviously has the blood of the Black Grand Plateau people. His skin was filled with the color of golden wheat, and his eyes were unusually calm under his short golden hair. In his hand, he was holding the Earth Rune Ring staff that Tucker had lent to Tanalu for self-defense. According to the information we have received, it is basically certain that Tanalu did it. Tanalu has shown up at the altar in the place where Arthurson died. It's just, his strength is indeed a bit unpredictable. Garia thought silently. When Aisha brings the wizard here, we will be able to know. Wait, wizard. Suddenly, Garia almost jumped up from the sofa. Turning around, Garia looked outside the door, looking at the location of the wizard that Aisha had dealt with alone. His face fell a little bit. Before. According to the information they received from the intelligence, all this was indeed done by Tanalu. Therefore, they carefully hunted and captured Tanalu, the double sequence genius. But judging from the result of the capture, it may not be too easy. As for the wizard, it would be enough to let Aisha go alone. But now it seems. I'm afraid that everyone has been led to think in the wrong direction. Captain, what's wrong? The dream maker on the side looked over curiously. Garia was about to explain. Squeak, ah. The door was gently pushed open. A wizard wearing a gray wizard robe and accompanied by a shadow stood at the door frame. He was also leading a sheep. A sheep that Garia was somewhat familiar with. Aisha. Damn, it's him. This wizard is the real culprit. Be careful. Accompanied by Garya's low roar. Captain, BAA. The Dreammaker was about to take action, and before the captain finished shouting, he had already made a sheep cry. The broad palm suddenly grasped the shadow blade in his hand, and Garya instantly turned into a shadow. As a shadow walker, he can resist many wizards' control methods by borrowing the power of shadow. At the same time, boom, a loud thunder accompanied by purple lightning exploded on Tucker. In addition to the Dreammaker and the Shadow Walker, there was a third enemy in the house, a wizard. Purple lightning exploded in front of Tucker, knocking off nearly half of the shield of Tucker's second-level wizard robe. Glancing at the fast-approaching shadow, Tucker fired a bullet tentacle at the wizard in the corner. Bang! A layer of ripples appeared on the wizard's wizard robe in the corner of the house, and the shield blocked the bullet tentacles. Once the bullet tentacles are blocked, and the shield-like means, they basically can't play much of a role. But this bullet tentacle itself is not used for attacking. Yin, the extremely fast Shadow Walker, has already attacked, and a shiny blade light tore through the air and attacked Tucker. Tucker also took a slight step back and escaped into the shadow. Swish, the blade split the remaining shadow. Tucker appeared on the other side of the hall. Shadow passing. Garya, who is also shrouded in shadow, smelled a familiar breath. He also has the ability to travel through shadows. If it was any other shadow transcendent, he would dare to follow him. However, the wizard in front of him had killed Arthurson and had shown extremely amazing strength in the underground undead passage. He did not dare to follow him easily. For a moment, the two shadow-covered areas stood in the corners of the hall, presenting a confrontation. The opponent's magical sheep transforming technique had an amazing restraining ability, and instantly eliminated the Dreammaker in their team. If the Dreammaker was not transformed into a sheep, cooperating with the wizard Gran, it would be 3 against 1, completely dominant. No, it should be 4 against 1. Gary glanced at Beverly Aisha, who had turned into a sheep next to him. In the house behind him, if the wizard Gran quickly solved the Dreammaker's sheep transformation, he should also be able to quickly solve the transformation of Aisha next to him. But, why do I feel something is wrong? That wizard clearly brought Aisha here, but why did he leave her here? Isn't this giving me a chance to rescue Aisha? Bang! Bang! Garya's shadow heart began to beat violently. The B-level talent, alert, erupted like a volcano at this moment. Not good. In the corner of his eye, Beverly Aisha, who had turned into a sheep, raised her head and looked at him with despair and fear in her eyes. Her body instantly expanded and a large amount of holy light bloomed like a scorching sun, as if to cleanse all the filth of the world. Boom! The roar that was enough to tear the eardrums, accompanied by the breath and luster of the majestic sacred light, swept across the second floor of the undead tower. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69: The Surging Undercurrent. Sheep transformation is a core spell of a wizard. It is because of its great expansibility and accommodation. A large number of excited light-shaping spears and balls are hidden under the sheepskin. Thus, the powerful shepherd holy light bullet is constructed. As long as the deformation ability of the sheep transformation is high enough, and the precise control of the excited light-shaping spears and balls is high enough, then such an operation is completely feasible. And Tucker's shadow travels to open up the distance, which is exactly the fuse that stimulates the explosion fuse of the light-shaping spears and balls. Boom! A huge roar, venting wildly. Even if there is already a shadow robe, a wizard robe shield, and Tucker has added a source scale shield to himself, and the distance is far. Tucker's shadow state is still pressed against the wall by the shock wave of the explosion. After a while, the aftermath of the explosion slowly dissipated. The house was filled with dust. His eyes glanced at the wall of the undead tower with the characteristics of magic hidden death, and saw the chaotic characteristics of the impact caused by his holy light bomb. Tucker slowly retracted his gaze. The location of the shepherd's holy light bomb. The door no longer exists. The female assassin, sheep, has also evaporated on the spot. That shadow walker. Tucker looked around. At this time, the aftermath of the explosion caused the impact of light and death to be too chaotic. For a moment, Tucker couldn't confirm whether the Shadow Walker was killed. But even if he didn't die, he would basically only have half his life left if he escaped. As for whether the other party dared to kill back, Tucker hoped that the other party could turn back. If the other party escaped back, it would be even better. Throw down a few kerosene bombs to provide light and avoid possible sneak attacks from the Shadow Walker as much as possible. After holding another light-shaping spear in his hand, Tucker stepped on the devastated ruins and walked towards the inner room. "Help me." A weak cry for help came from Tanalu. Tucker ignored it. The dream maker who had been turned into a sheep had fainted. But the wizard had disappeared. Tucker looked around, and the moment he turned his head, he made his move. Swish! The light-shaping spear instantly pierced through the shoulder of the wizard, who was hiding in the corner with camouflage. The wizard robe that seemed to have good defense was as brittle as paper in front of the light-shaping spear. His witchcraft is too fast. When he was nailed to the wall and the pain echoed in his brain, Gran finally reacted. As a level 27 wizard, the concealment of his source energy response, the speed of witchcraft condensation, and the speed at which witchcraft landed on the target after being shot were all considered the best in the same level. But compared with the wizard in front of him, there was a world of difference. He did not feel the opponent's source energy fluctuations from the beginning to the end. He couldn't make an accurate judgment on the speed of witchcraft condensation, but judging from the result of a 1-on-4 battle and a disastrous defeat for his side already explained everything. What made Gran most desperate was the speed of the opponent's spell after it was released. It was almost reached as soon as he started. No matter what, you have to roughly determine the direction of your intention. You can't just throw the witchcraft in your hand. And the opponent didn't seem to need to control the landing point of the spell at all. It seemed that he was confident that he would hit the target as soon as he shot. The shadow swept over quickly. Tucker took off the second-level wizard's ring staff and storage bracelet. Although he could cast spells without the ring staff, this second-level wizard was nailed to the wall by Tucker. If the opponent dared to struggle, Tucker could completely shoot him in the head in the first place. There is a huge difference in the power of spells with and without the ring staff. Thunder Rune Ring Staff. Looking at the Thunder Rune Ring Staff in his hand, Tucker raised his eyebrows. No wonder a seemingly weak thunderbolt knocked down half of my shield. Not bad, not bad. Tucker nodded slightly. After confirming that the Dream Maker Yang was really unconscious and looting him, Tucker fished out Tanalu from the ruins. Save me, I can still save a little. He took out the silver hooks that locked Tanalu's shoulders with a source of energy. After taking out a bottle of life potion and drinking it, Tanalu, who was strangled by death, slowly recovered. It must be said that Tanalu's vitality is really tenacious. He was injured and caught off guard by the aftermath of the impact, but he was still able to survive. He is really lucky. You know, Tucker has already prepared to collect his body. Soon, Tanalu initially recovered his mental consciousness, and the control of the source of energy gradually returned. Not long after, Tanalu turned over and cast a powerful recovery spell on himself. Black viscous liquid like raindrops kept falling. The wound on his shoulder healed visibly. Damn bastard! Tanalu roared angrily, his eyes seemed to be on fire. Where are they? One was killed on the spot, and the other is still alive. These are the other two. Tucker pointed to the sheep sleeping in the ruins and the wizard nailed to the wall. There are still two alive? That sheep is the Dream Maker, right? Tanalu's anger and pain quickly turned into a smile, and then became more hideous and twisted. Gaga. At this time, the cry of the undead raven came from outside. Deal with these two guys, don't kill them, it's best to pry some information out of them. Teacher Aubrey is here, I'll go deal with it. Understood. Tanalu, clenching his fists, looked at the sheep. All the means that the other party had used on him just now, all have to be super doubled. Pushing open the glass window of the balcony where only about 10% of the wreckage was left, Tucker saluted an undead raven on the balcony. Teacher Aubrey, just now 4 guys came over and wanted to catch Tanalu, or more accurately, wanted to catch me. 1 was killed on the spot, 2 were caught by me, and the other 1 is missing. The undead raven looked inside, and then his eyes fell on Tucker. Has the strength of your light-shaping spear increased again? Yes. Tucker nodded and explained truthfully. When I took the wizard's characteristics before, there were 2 that contained strong light characteristics. Just to replenish the light characteristics of my light-shaping spear. Two of the wizard's characteristics in Arthurson's hand contained light. Obviously, Arthurson would not think of taking the light characteristics on his own. It is estimated that he killed the guy who wanted to use light to dispel his dark sun and kept it in his hands as a trophy. And this light wizard's characteristics just happened to give Tucker a big boost. Light attributes are rare. At least in the Ashland. Taking wizard characteristics? And more than two. After Tucker explained this, Aubrey couldn't help but look at it carefully. The wizard's characteristics have indeed become much stronger. And his ecology does not seem to have the kind of chaos and tearing feeling after absorbing the extra wizard's characteristics, but instead, there is a sense of pure enhancement. This kid's digestion ability is so amazing. The digestion of characteristics is different for everyone. It seems that Tucker also has extraordinary talent in absorbing and digesting extraordinary characteristics. Looking at him, it seems that he is about to reach the level of resonance with a steam core. This growth rate is really too fast. Aubrey wanted to see more, but was limited by the undead raven itself and could not go further. At this time, screams and bleating sheep sounds came from the ruins in the house. Aubrey looked at the floor that was comparable to a demolition site and spoke again. "Be careful next time there is an explosion, don't demolish my undead tower." The light blew up the foundation of the undead wizard tower, an act of blasphemy against the undead wizard. Aubrey passed it over lightly. "Be careful during this period. After the interrogation, bring me a copy of the information. Also, when you come here, I have something to discuss with you." "Yes," Tucker responded carefully. Aubrey left as a large number of undead ravens took off. "Discuss with me? What is it? Is the situation outside already very bad?" "Not really. After all, the Day of Ashes has come out, and even the ash tide has been contained by the Day of Ashes. Or is it the secret of steam deep in the Tower of Lamore? Even Lord Aubrey has only glimpsed clues there, but cannot really touch it. Not to mention the secret itself. Tucker's original plan was to initially complete the steam resonance. Only in this way would there be a slight chance to touch the incredible. He rubbed his eyebrows and walked into the house. Lamore is now in a very delicate stage. This assassination is just a small disturbance in the turbulent undercurrent. Many things will slide into an irreversible abyss if you are not careful. Even Tucker needs to be extremely careful. Chapter 70 The Fall of Lamore. After walking around the ruined house, Tucker came to the window glass near the toilet. Of course, there is no window or glass now, only the remains of the blown-up window. It is not a very obvious trace, but it is definitely a trace of the shadow. He fell out of the window, hit the pile of bones below, and then fled into the depths of darkness. The second floor is still not high enough. If it is 20 floors high, it will cost him at least a quarter of his life if he falls down, and he may even die on the spot. Staring at the darkness for a moment, Tucker retracted his gaze. The Shadow Walker escaped. Although Tucker's true identity was exposed, it was no longer important. It was enough for Tanneru to block a sneak attack. Except for the guy who escaped, the material resources, extraordinary equipment, etc. on the other three people are almost close to 3,000 magic gold. Add to that the resources I have, and I have almost 4,000 magic gold. Although it has not been redeemed, those resources are not bad. It's time to exchange some more resources and witchcraft from Lord Aubrey that I need. Tucker thought secretly. Inside the house, the sound of whips and scoldings came one after another. Dreammaker Yang was tied to the stone pillar by Tanalu. A whip fell, accompanied by Tanalu's scolding. "I told you not to confess, right? Baa. You dare to talk back, right?" Another whip. You don't even cry, you would rather die than surrender, right? Snap. 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 The whips were cracking. Baa. How dare you scream so loudly? It seems you are tired of living. Baa. I tell you, your breathing now is a crime, and you still dare to scream at me. The desperate and shrill sound of the sheep could not be stopped at all. After beating the opponent half to death, Tanalu cast a life activation spell on the opponent. This spell can allow the injured to recover quickly, but it will shorten their lifespan instead. It is a kind of witchcraft that exchanges life for recovery. It was originally a healing spell used for emergency treatment. But now in Tanalu's hands, it has become a whetstone for torture. Since the opponent was beaten miserably but not to death, he could also extract his vitality and vent his anger. This wave is at least a win-win for all three. The beating was almost over. Tanalu then looked at the wizard Grand nailed to the wall. The hook that contained the source energy was buckled on the wizard's shoulder. At this time, Wizard Gran looked at the sheep that was being treated and had its skin and flesh turned inside out. He knew that he couldn't escape today no matter what. You answer whatever I ask you, and I can give you a quick death later. And that guy? I will use priest surgery to gradually dismantle his sequence, making him completely useless, and finally sell him to the crypt people. Those crypt people know that some of the sheep we sell to them are transformed from humans, so they will sell them to kobolds for resale. And kobolds are the least picky eaters. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that kobolds like roasted whole lambs the most. If you don't cooperate honestly, I will also dismantle your sheep transformation sequence and turn you into a sheep. Once, Gran thought he was a devout believer. Now it seems that he is a lot worse. Gran's legs have begun to tremble. I say. Wizard Gran squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. Turning around, he whipped the Dream Maker sheep a few more times. Tanalu turned around and nodded carefully. Very good. Not far away, Tucker sat on a sofa with 3 legs broken. In Tucker's hand was a parchment book. This was a good thing that St. Lander had shipped from the prosperous Steam City state on the southern continent. Following Tanalu's questioning and Wizard Gran's answer, the veins constructed by the touch spirit drew out a tiny bit of ink from the ink bottle beside it and dropped it on the parchment. Lines of text appeared on the parchment book. The content of the conversation between the two was recorded in detail by Tucker. A few hours later, Tucker recorded the content of the conversation between the two in detail. The knowledge veins absorbed all this information. The situation outside is indeed a bit troublesome. According to the current situation, Lamor may. Tucker thought quietly. It may not be able to hold on until I go down to the Demon King's tomb to pry the coffin lid. With this in mind, Tucker put away the parchment book. As Tucker stood up, the sofa with only one leg left fell to the ground. I'm going to go to Mentor Aubrey. You can do whatever you want with these 2 guys. In addition, the few spiritual undead skeletons I asked Amanti to leave here are downstairs. Let them come up and clean up here. After giving the order, Tucker walked up the tower stairs. As he walked forward, Tucker imagined the current situation of the Lamor Tower in his mind. Although it is now the Ash Day. But, the sky of Lamor has also been polluted. The dark fog descended from the alien dimension, and the abnormal sunlight of the Ash Day could not penetrate and shine on Lamor. The current Lamor is probably darker than the Ash Night. At least, there is moonlight in the Ash Moon. But now, there is no light, only darkness and death. With the Ash Day blocked, Lamor's ecology is constantly squeezed and infiltrated. Even if Tucker did not go out, he could feel the increasing pressure from the outside through the last rare shelter veins here. The underground dungeon defense line was defended. But the surface defense line of the lighthouse wall completely collapsed. Many lighthouse outposts were also submerged in darkness. Except for the high tower area. The other areas were basically wiped out. Some people fled to the high tower. Some people fled underground. There were also some people with good strength who planned to cross the wilderness at night and reach St. Land. But there was news. Many people were frozen into statues while walking. Even the moment before, they were still talking and laughing, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into ice sculptures. They left the protection of the Lamor Steam Tower. The cold of the Ash Moon is particularly freezing. At present, the underground area of the high tower area and the underground defense line are temporarily safe. Other places are all the members of the Dark Sun Church and those Dark Sun evils who are as cruel as hyenas. And in the past few days, there has been no invasion of the Ash Moon. Some people began to form groups to leave the Lamor Tower. Tucker learned from the wizard. What the Dark Sun Church wants now is that those people gradually leave Lamor. It looked like a way out, but in fact it was just a trap set by the enemy. On the way to St. Land, there were a large number of hunting knights from the Dark Sun Church, as well as Dark Sun Evil Fallen, who devoured and enjoyed those walking food. Dark Sun, like a giant beast, was devouring Lamor bit by bit, indifferently and ruthlessly. Chapter 71 Shadow, Ritual Contract. The Tower of the Dead. Book collection floor. The fire in the fireplace was burning, with occasional sparks crackling. The necromancer Aubrey was looking up the information Tucker had obtained from interrogating the wizard Gran. Tucker sat close to the fireplace, feeling the warmth of the flames. The faint rune veins were dancing in Tucker's hands. Ever since Tucker discovered that he could control the veins with perfect precision at the level of world veins, Tucker began to gradually develop this ability. After all, this was a characteristic obtained by SSS-level precision. At this time, a thin earth rune vein permeated Tucker's shadow rune ring staff. This earth rune vein was a strand that Tucker had drawn from the earth rune ring staff that he had lent to Taniru. After all, Tucker also needed to guard against Taniru running away with the money. As a result, Taniru failed to guard against it, but the members of the Dark Sun Church took the bait. The escaped Shadow Walker took Tucker's earth rune ring staff. This is one of the reasons why Tucker did not chase that guy immediately. When the time is right, he will go to harvest another wave. As long as the fishing line is long enough, Tucker can harvest enough fish. While thinking, Tucker looked around. Snoring, snore. The slight snoring sound was faint beside his ear. The mysterious guy slept so deeply that Tucker was a little sleepy. Tucker roughly knew that this should be the magic house where Lord Aubrey kept. It would be great if I could raise some powerful magical animals in the future. Besides, with a sheep transformation skill, there is no need to worry about the size problem. Even demons, devils, and anything else can be raised. What? You said this thing is easy to devour its owner. Then it must want to join the KFC Deluxe lunch. Not long after, Lord Aubrey finished browsing. Compared with the intuitive information in the tower, the content obtained from the interrogation is more detailed. Such as, how many powerful transcendents are there in the Dark Sun Church that came to besiege the Rammer City State? How many Dark Suns have fallen? What is their general plan? And how many traitors are there in Rammer? Even, the interrogation content also includes some low-level transcendents who escaped from Rammer. In order to survive, they had to actively pollute the Dark Sun and then become the puppets of the Dark Sun. Of course, the two people arrested this time did not know about the top-level accomplices in the Rammer Tower City State. After a long while, Aubrey looked at Tucker and said slowly, "Steam ring, have you explored it?" "Not yet, I am digesting those wizard characteristics, and I plan to try it after the steam resonance." Tucker shook his head. "Well, the traces of the Angel of Light steam in the steam ring are indeed extremely hidden. We can only glimpse a trace of it occasionally. Hasteful exploration will not yield any extra gains. You are right to explore the secrets in the steam at your own pace. In addition, you have digested your extraordinary characteristics very well. And I saw that you seem to be learning alchemy during this period." Aubrey asked in a soothing tone. "Yes, I don't trust Taniru's alchemy, so I smelt it myself. I seem to have a good talent in this area, and I have achieved amazing results with precision. In addition, my digestion ability is somewhat different from that of ordinary extraordinary people, so I can take more wizard characteristics during this period." Listening to Tucker's explanation, Aubrey laughed softly. There is no doubt. This little guy who he is optimistic about has begun to gradually show his extraordinary talent at the extraordinary level. Maybe his explicit talent is not high enough. But, those talents hidden in his bones cannot be buried. As the extraordinary characteristics gradually improve and strengthen, his talents will become more and more exaggerated. Especially the digestion ability, which is one of the most important abilities. Good, very good. Aubrey laughed. Since Tucker's incomparable talent has been confirmed, then his training and guidance of Tucker during this period will be more valuable. In the future, although there is not much time, it is enough for him to teach Tucker more things. You came here this time, you should have other things. Aubrey asked. I can't hide anything from you, teacher. I want to buy a summoning witchcraft of the shadow system from you. Tucker said truthfully. Shadow, summon. Aubrey pondered carefully, and after a moment, Aubrey spoke. I don't have summoning witchcraft, but I have a shadow sequence, ritual, contract witchcraft, in my hand. And it is a very dangerous type of shadow ritual witchcraft. General extraordinary people dare not master this kind of witchcraft. Especially shadow wizards, they often become sacrifices in the ritual. Even if you master a ritual witchcraft, you have to be careful, understand? Understood. Tucker nodded carefully. Shadow ritual, contract witchcraft. As a combination of witchcraft and ritual, it can basically be regarded as the ceiling-level existence of witchcraft. Those summoned by this kind of ritual are often very powerful beings. And they are extremely dangerous. This was the case in the barrier world before. Taniru looked normal, because he was a priest, able to save himself, and was relatively restrained, and did not dare to absorb it at a high intensity. If someone else dared to absorb the iron coupling source wall of the barrier world at a high intensity like Tucker to strengthen his wizard ecology, I'm afraid he would have knelt by the wall and confessed and prayed 24 hours a day. The scroll shrouded in shadow was taken out by Aubrey. Suddenly, the fire on the side was stained with a thin layer of shadow. As the light dimmed, the surrounding colors were gradually stripped away. A pair of cold eyes with clear black and white in the flames, like stars, blinked and stared at Tucker. Roar! Roar! The roar of the shadow hound came faintly. Groping for the shadow ritual scroll, Tucker waited for a moment. Those shadow hounds did not dare to jump out and attack Tucker. You are not immersed enough in the shadow. You cannot really attract hatred. As Tucker put the shadow ritual scroll into the supernatural storage bracelet, the strange phenomenon gradually dissipated, and the room returned to normal. 99 magic gold. Aubrey offered the price at this time. There is still a big difference between gift and trade. Especially when some high-level supernaturals begin to affect the world around them with their own supernatural characteristics. Avoid establishing more connections. The cutting nature of trade is more straightforward than gift. After the transaction was completed, Aubrey, who was examining Tucker, spoke slowly again. The main reason I came to you is that Sliver came here 2 days ago. Isn't it your purpose to ask about the steam ring? Tucker raised his eyebrows. Of course not. Aubrey smiled. It's not that matter is not important, but it's not the main thing today. Currently, Sliver is leading many matters related to the Demon King's seal. Sliver has already felt the undercurrents around her. But the people at the top don't have much time to help her. So, he hopes that if you finish the things in your hands, you can go there to help her, and at the same time speed up the exploration and harvest of the Demon King's tomb. After all, you were originally one of the candidates she planned to participate in the Demon King's tomb. Tucker thought for a moment and nodded. Understood. Tomorrow, at most the day after tomorrow, I will be able to initially deal with the things in my hands. At that time, I will go to Sliver. Okay, I will inform Sliver in advance that you will go there in the next 2 days. In addition, this assassination has proved that the people of the Dark Sun Church have noticed you. Be careful. Aubrey warned. Tucker smiled and said, Don't worry, I will. Now with the increase of resources, Tucker is gradually building the foundation and means that a true extraordinary wizard should have. Maybe, they should be careful, not me. Chapter 72 Shadow Flame Demon Wolf. Tucker likes to act alone. But this does not mean that Tucker likes to fight with fewer people. If the situation allows, Tucker prefers group fights. Summoning is undoubtedly an excellent means to complete this kind of operation. Moreover, the summoned creatures are very useful. Next to the skeleton wall, Tucker sat cross-legged at the foot of the skeleton mountain and completed the enhanced absorption of today's barrier ceremony. Before that, Tucker also completed the study of ritual, shadow contract. The barrier ceremony communicates with the Great Barrier. The shadow ceremony communicates with the creatures of the shadow dimension. The two are slightly different. Maybe Tucker does not have too many talents in summoning. But, Tucker is very good at finding creatures in the shadow dimension through rituals. Even after Tucker learned ritual, shadow contract, through basic summoning witchcraft spells, Tucker can find some not so strong creatures in the shadow dimension according to his fit with the shadow dimension. Relying on the powerful precision and the shadow power of the rune, Shadow Ring Staff, Tucker can easily pull the opponent over. Yes, it was to force them to come over. It was more like kidnapping than summoning. And Tucker really did it. The power of summoning penetrated into the shadow dimension and randomly selected 2 lucky audiences to be pulled over. When Tucker completed the barrier ceremony, Tucker would bind the veins of faith in the barrier world to these 2 lucky shadow creatures. As Tucker lifted the summons, the 2 shadow creatures fled away like famine. Finally, we don't have to harm Lord Aubrey's undead ravens anymore. I guess Lord Aubrey should have discovered it, but he just didn't have the courage to say it. It's enough to harm them a little. If I harm them all, Lord Aubrey might scold me. After feeling the small problem of being able to produce and sell the barrier belief by himself, Tucker has solved a small problem of long-term stable development. Tucker, sitting cross-legged on the skeleton, calmed down a little. He focused on today's shadow contract ceremony. Ritual shadow contract. There are 2 ways to contract. One is a simple summon, just like what I did just now, but the one summoned is a low-level shadow creature. I really don't have any talent in this area. That shadow ball-like creature, I have never seen it before, it's a weak one. I expect it to fight. I guess it will just be a crunch. Ritual is the right way for me to find helpers. Construct a ritual, go deep into the shadow dimension, find a powerful shadow creature, anchor it with a ritual, and complete the contract. It's simple in theory, but in practice, it's quite difficult. If the target is too weak, it will definitely not work. If it's too strong, once it descends, it will be a complete waste. If you want to find a contract that is neither strong nor weak, 1 or 2 times will definitely not work. If you try repeatedly, the investment in shadow materials is also a considerable expense. Tucker has a certain amount of shadow materials in his hands. But he definitely can't waste them like this. First, conduct a ritual and give it a try. If you find a suitable one, contract it. Then, if there are extra shadow materials, continue to test them again and again. Just follow the method of looking for a new one while you are still working, and replace them one by one. As his thoughts gradually opened up, the plan gradually took shape. During this period, Tucker had accumulated a lot of materials. Whether it was his own harvest or the ones he loaded from the assassins of the Dark Sun Church. The materials for the ritual and shadow contract were gathered together. But looking at the 3 extraordinary storage bracelets in his hands, which were all filled to the brim, Tucker was a little helpless. This kind of situation of robbing often occurs. It is still necessary to get a larger extraordinary storage bracelet. Soon, Tucker had completed the arrangement of the shadow ritual. Black candles, a black wooden table, and a black dagger. This is the basis of the ritual. The sacrifice is a portion of shadow material, a small half-cup of blood infiltrated, stained, by shadow, and a living life. Living life? Sacrificing a living person? Tucker was not so desperate now. He could just use a rat as a substitute. There were rats everywhere in the underground now. The 7 or 8 kilogram rats made Tucker's scalp numb. How could they grow so big? The black candlelight was lit, but the light was not very sufficient. Tucker activated the shadow rune ring staff and entered the shadow state. The ritual spell echoed around Tucker, low and deep. The shadow wandering in light and darkness. You are the hasty walker of the shadow dimension. You are the fearless who fights bravely. You are the maintainer of the shadow contract. Through the filling of the non-fixed sentences of the ritual, the scope of the contracted creatures can be roughly locked. As Tucker chanted, the shadow wind vortex surged around Tucker. The breath of some shadow creatures also emerged, and even through the surging shadow wind vortex, the outlines of these creatures could be seen. They were all ordinary shadow creatures of level 17 and 18. Normally, the scope of the ritual is this large. If you are not satisfied, then end the ceremony, change the time and place, and try again. Usually, before conducting similar ceremonies, it is best to find a fortune teller, a prophet, or other extraordinary person to make a divination. If the result is good, then do it. If the result is bad, then obviously there is no need to invest. But Tucker obviously does not have such an opportunity. However, Tucker does not really need it. Luck is not enough, but talent can make up for it. Tucker, who gradually gathered his mind, was no longer limited to the few shadow creatures encountered by the simple contract, but followed the veins of the ceremony and began to cut into the world veins of the shadow dimension. Penetrate into the wider range of the shadow dimension. This is Tucker's true great summoning technique. The power of the ceremony is originally a projection of the foreign land. Under Tucker's manipulation, the radiation range is naturally extremely vast. Soon, Tucker felt a very ferocious and strong shadow creature. That's it, come here. The power of the ceremony instantly enveloped the shadow creature. Whether you are willing or not, I will just pull it hard. As the shadow whirlwind dissipated, a giant wolf creature about the size of a calf, with a sturdy body and burning black shadow flames all over its body, appeared in front of Tucker. Shadow Flame Wolf. Tucker recognized it instantly. It has a strong shadow bloodline power, and it is also an elite creature. At the same time, this guy is at level 28. Its combat ability is quite strong. It is estimated that it can fight more than a dozen ordinary shadow creatures of level 17 and 18 that were contracted before. Tucker saw the level and bloodline power of this Shadow Flame Wolf. But this Shadow Flame Wolf regarded Tucker as food. With a leap, the Shadow Flame Wolf opened its bloody fangs and bit down. Tucker backhanded a spear of shaping light and pierced through its head. How handsome it was when it jumped, how miserable it was when it fell. The spear of shaping light poured into the brain cavity of the Shadow Flame Wolf's head, came out from under its throat, and nailed it to the ground. The burning of holy light caused the struggling black flame to splash everywhere, and it also let out a shrill low scream. As a shadow type, virtual and real-life form, it has no physical weaknesses. But when facing the power that restrains itself, it is basically full of weaknesses. Either establish a contract and obey me, or wait for death. After Tucker used the ritual to convey the information, he no longer cared about this shadow flame wolf. Now the ritual has not ended yet, under Tucker's precise control. Tucker can still get a few more shadow flame wolf over. After all, creatures like demon wolves are social creatures. Since there is a demon wolf, there must be a group of demon wolves behind. Soon. Under Tucker's great summoning technique, the second and third shadow flame wolf were also caught by Tucker. Until the fourth shadow flame wolf was in hand. Tucker felt that a powerful force in the shadow dimension noticed him. That was the power of the leader. Retreat. Without any hesitation, Tucker immediately evacuated. Now, Tucker is only level 18. The leader's power is at least level 30, and it is possible to be level 38 or 39. If Tucker completes the Steam upgrade, he may still be able to defeat the opponent. But now, the possibility of defeat is almost certain. Tucker's eyes swept over the 4 shadow flame wolf gods that he had captured, and nodded with satisfaction. The 4 shadow flame wolves, under the burning of the spear of shaping light, soon surrendered to 3 of them. Tucker completed the contract easily. One of them was very stubborn, and was burned by the holy light of the spear of shaping light and turned into a pool of sticky black mist. As the pool of black mist emerged, the 3 surrendered shadow flame wolves all showed a covetous attitude. Go. As soon as Tucker ordered, the 3 shadow flame wolves pounced on it directly, biting and swallowing the sticky black mist. When the 3 shadow flame wolves finished swallowing, the 3 shadow flame wolves showed a submissive attitude towards Tucker. Wolf creatures naturally have the obedience to powerful creatures. This is much better than those 100 jin weighing 99 jin rebellious demon creatures. Tucker waved his hand. 3 shadow flame demon wolves circled around Tucker's shadow and disappeared. 2 are level 28, and 1 is level 26. They all have bloodlines, and they are all elites, and their combat power is not weak. I would be in a mess with all 3 of them. Tucker was quite satisfied with the contract of this shadow ritual. Compared with other types of summoned creatures, shadow creatures live in the shadow of the contractor. It is also more convenient to use. After doing all this, Tucker slowly spoke while packing up the altar items. Come out when you come, why do you like to sneak around? As Tucker's voice fell, Carlos in silver light armor came out from the darkness on the side, with curiosity and vigilance on his face. It's been a while since I last saw you. I didn't expect you to have the talent for summoning. And the summoned creatures are not weak. More than not weak. It was so ferocious that it was shocking. Carlos could see the shadow flame wolf clearly. It was a real shadow creature with bloodline power. If one came up, the odds would be 30-70. Of course, 70% would be the shadow wolf. If there were 2, Carlos might not be able to escape. If 3 came together, Carlos estimated that this time next year would probably be the anniversary of his death. Carlos vaguely remembered that when he and Tucker teamed up for the first adventure, Tucker's strength was still weaker than his. But now, Tucker's summons are probably a bit stronger than him. It's only been a few months, and this is such an incredible freak. Carlos shook his head and stated his purpose. Tucker, my sister wants to see you. A new week, asking for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 73 The Devil's Coffin. Tucker, who had been underground for a long time, finally stepped onto the surface of L'Amour again. The sky of L'Amour seemed to be heavily painted with thick black ink. From the thick ink-like darkness, the huge outline of the dark red-ash sun could be vaguely seen. In addition, the whole world was immersed in the tide of dark sun, ashes and dark tide. The faint pollution had begun to permeate the steam tower ecology of L'Amour. In the past, during the gray night period, although it was a bit cold, at least when I was on the surface, I could save the service life of the lantern. That damn dark sun church, now I can't even save the lantern. Tucker muttered in a low voice. Tucker, who wanted to come to the surface to put away the lantern, could only throw a highly condensed kerosene bomb into it again. The orange-red flames became much more intense again, pushing the darkness out 4 or 5 meters. At this time, there was still light coming out of the tower window in the tower area, as well as lantern watchmen patrolling the defense line around the tower area, and pedestrians with lights scattered around. Apart from that, Lamore seemed to have been completely swallowed by the darkness. I wonder where Old Com and the others have fled to. Old Com and the cavemen have stable trading channels, so they can survive even if they go underground. I'm afraid that those cavemen will do something dirty. Tucker thought secretly as he walked forward in the darkness. The shadow tentacles were as thick as wool, condensing from Tucker's shoulders, extending forward about 1.5 meters to grab the lantern. The lantern did not shake with Tucker's steps, but was very stable. He was also in the form of shadow state combined with normal walking. This was a method of using shadow state that Tucker had researched that was more suitable for him. This way, he could maintain the burst and use of his physical body, and also maintain the strange flexibility of the shadow state. Carlos on the side followed Tucker closely. When walking alone in the dark, Carlos was still quite careful. After all, the darkness around the tower area was not safe. He heard that someone was assassinated 2 days ago. But now, when following Tucker, Carlos felt relieved. The elite magic wolves close to the 3rd level were all dealt with by Tucker. Even if they encountered assassins infiltrated by the Dark Sun Church, they would only be unlucky. Glancing at the steam tower that was still struggling to spit out steam energy, Tucker gradually narrowed his eyes. Tell me about the current situation of the seal of the underground Demon King. Carlos, who came here for this matter, sorted out his thoughts a little and started to tell the story. At present, the passage to the Demon King's tomb has been blocked. And on the steam tower, an independent magic door has been built, and you can directly enter from the tower too. Carlos lowered his voice slightly. The place where we roasted the fire. At present, the energy level of the doorway we dug before has reached the level that can accommodate the entry of 17th level extraordinary people. It will soon reach level 18, and level 19 will not be a big problem in a few days. It doesn't seem to be a problem to get in, but the problem is. Carlos stopped here and looked at Tucker. Tucker added slowly and methodically. After entering, whether you can come out alive, this is the problem. You, as expected. Carlos raised his eyebrows. As he walked forward, Tucker said slowly. If Lamore had not encountered an attack from the Dark Sun Church, this time, the exploration of the Demon King's tomb will surely be a slow-moving harvest. But, everyone with a discerning eye can see that Lamore can't hold on. Lamore may not be able to see the next sunrise. Tucker talked about the Ashes Day. Carlos on the side glanced at the dark sky like thick ink, his eyes showing a little empty state. Tucker glanced at Carlos' slightly strange state. Tucker looked away after a while. Carlos obviously didn't realize that he had entered a state of emptiness in his thoughts and cognition. Tucker continued to narrate. Plus, the Dark Sun Church also secretly coveted the Demon King's tomb. The Demon King's tomb must be a bad debt. Since it is a bad debt, there is no need to worry about it. As long as there is one person who acts recklessly in it, the fragile trust will collapse in an instant. At that time, everyone will become reckless. Tucker smiled faintly when he said this. Perhaps, St. Lander still has some concerns, but the other Tower City states. I'm afraid they hope that all the people from Lamore who go in will die. After all, everyone is friendly on the surface, but they have done a lot of wicked things in secret. From what I know, the lighthouse mine on the northeast side of Lamore was bombed, killing hundreds of people and even losing a large area of mining areas. This is a big blow to Lamore. It's still unknown who did it. Those guys don't care about Lamore's survival at all. All they want is to eat Lamore's body fiercely. For them, a dead Lamore is the best Lamore. Tucker's words made Carlos understand that Tucker obviously understood this trip to the Demon King's tomb more deeply and thoroughly than he did. He naively thought that this was a cooperative exploration. Until his sister Zillur told him righteously. You can be naive, but others won't be naive with you. The change in the off-field form of Lamore made this exploration more dangerous. Then, are you sure you want to participate? Carlos asked. After all, when my sister invited you before, Lamore was not on the current predicament. This question is also the core question that Carlos came to confirm. Go, why not? Tucker said lightly. After all, there is a Demon King there. If you don't open the Demon King's coffin, it would be too unfair to this trip to the Demon King's tomb. The Demon King's coffin. Carlos was stunned. You don't really want to do this? Tucker smiled. Didn't you say it a long time ago? I am the gravedigger of the Demon King's tomb. But. Carlos wanted to speak, but was interrupted by Tucker. Your sister should have given you the information of the other several high tower city states that may participate this time, as well as the extraordinary geniuses of level 18 and 19 in the St. Land Extraordinary Academy. Tucker asked. Give it to me. Carlos took out the information bag his sister had asked him to take. Well, it's quite big. It seems that those guys are not weak, Tucker said, feeling the thickness of the parchment information bag. St. Rand is the core of our Dark Mantle province. In the Principality of Syrians, the Dark Mantle province is not small. Many knight families, wizard families, or other noble families with bloodlines, almost all the talented geniuses in the entire Dark Mantle province, have gathered in St. Rand. Even my sister is only qualified to study at the St. Rand Supernatural Academy, the killing ground where so many supernatural geniuses and powerful masters have entered. Do you really want to go? Tucker ignored Carlos's kind nagging. Instead, he looked at the huge steam tower with a clear roar above, and the steam ring that was being eroded step by step. Did your sister tell you? What? Carlos was startled. Tucker pointed to the steam ring above. You mean, the secrets of the machinery, steam, angels, etc. in Lamor's steam ring? Tucker smiled and said, your sister really doesn't treat you as an outsider. Carlos. Have you tried it? I tried it. What was the result? That secret is a lie. Carlos looked unconvinced. My sister felt it up there for 3 days, and those steam elves began to dance beside my sister. But my sister still didn't feel anything. Maybe, it's the wrong method. Method? What method? Carlos couldn't help but get closer. Tucker thought seriously for a moment, then slowly said, in many adventure stories, there are such plots. For example, a wizard is chased by an assassin, falls off a cliff, enters the place where the treasure of a powerful wizard is left, learns the powerful witchcraft of the forbidden spell level, and after returning strongly, he uses a forbidden spell to blow up the assassin's dog head. For example, a wizard is chased by an assassin and is forced into a desperate situation. As a result, the wizard breaks through and is promoted to supermaster. After coming out, he uses a witchcraft to separate the assassin's body. I understand, the assassin must die, right? Carlos rolled his eyes. No. Tucker shook his head. Only when you're on the verge of death can you have the chance to grab the lost treasure. This condition is too harsh. Carlos still looked unconvinced. If it is not harsh, wouldn't the treasure have been taken away long ago? Well, there is a little truth in that. As they talked, the two had already arrived at the entrance of the steam tower. At this time, the entrance to the steam tower was heavily guarded. The burly knight held a powerful steam gun in his hand. Tucker's bullet tentacles were a simulation of this kind of steam gun. But the power was obviously not as good as these steam guns of the same level. It is said that a third-level steam gun, after charging, can blast through a thick wall with one shot. After the identity check was completed, Tucker and Carlos passed through the magic door and came directly to the floor where the steam ring was located. When they walked out of the magic door and saw the situation in the hall on this floor, Tucker's pupils shrank slightly. Chapter 74 Angel Sequence. In the hall, gray steam was floating lightly. The scattered light of the wall lamps spread out, interweaving in these light steam. At this time, there were many people in the hall and on the balconies outside that were led by several corridors. Especially the balcony, which was the closest to the steam ring, was completely occupied. Tucker turned on the precision vision to the maximum, and only then could he barely see the extremely weak light characteristics in the air. Light characteristics, there are, but it's too little. Carlos, who looked around for a moment with a sly look, whispered to Tucker, "Follow me." The two came to a door one after another. Carlos gently twisted the door handle with one hand. One of the assassin's extraordinary methods, unlocking, was activated silently. Click. The door was opened. An empty house similar to a warehouse came into view. Especially the balcony, wide and bright. It's pretty good here, at least no one will disturb us. Tucker looked around and was very satisfied. You go to the balcony to meditate and look for the unreliable light and angels. I have to practice well. Carlos took out the alchemical velvet blanket, spread it on the ground, and sat on it. The alchemical velvet blanket has the effect of naturally gathering source energy and slightly tempering it. It is equivalent to half a wizard robe. Tucker's wool blanket meditation seat is just an ordinary blanket made of ordinary materials that is hand-sewn and slightly more beautiful. Glancing at Carlos, who was sitting cross-legged, showed a serious attitude on his face. During this period, Lamore's series of experiences and the pressure transmitted by the external environment made him mature a lot. Now, this kid can practice steadily. Tucker also laid a wool blanket meditation seat in a clean place on the balcony. Inhale, inhale. After a long breath, Tucker gathered his mind and felt the steam and gray fog. The first thing to bear the brunt is the pollution of the dark sun. Although it was very thin, Tucker was familiar with the dark sun and had an unparalleled insight. Tucker could still feel it clearly. On the surface, the power of steam seemed to resist the erosion of the dark sun. But the dark sun will grow stronger when it absorbs the steam source energy. And if the steam tower absorbs the dark sun, then it will be like now. The steam source energy inside the steam tower has begun to be slowly polluted. As time goes by, this speed will only get faster and faster. I hope to find the trace of the mysterious angel of light. It would be good to save Lamore, but if I can't save him, delay for a while and give me as much time as possible to develop. After all, the outside world doesn't have such an excellent place for steady development as the Demon King's tomb. Tucker gradually let go of his fit with the trajectory of the world's veins, constantly cutting into it, and then following the veins to feel in all directions. Pollution. Confrontation. Infiltration. Even the scene of the steam elves using their own power to continuously clean up the pollution was clearly seen by Tucker. Soon, Tucker noticed some strange traces. The veins of light power in certain areas were particularly clear. Tucker, who caught this scene, immediately gathered his power that matched the veins and began to penetrate along these light powers. If others discovered these hidden characteristics, they would stop here. They had no way to go further. Tucker estimated that it was precisely because of these strange light powers and the light feathers that appeared at a glance that the high tower masters in Lamore determined that there were traces of light, steam, angels, etc. as Tucker followed the veins of the light ladder and continued to go deeper into the unpredictable dimension. The breath of the light angel became stronger and stronger. Could it be that Lamore really has an angel nest? Is it the angel's little kingdom? For a moment, Tucker was a little uneasy. Angel sequence, that is a natural high-level existence. Even the underground city, demon sequence, that humans fear. The powerful, angel sequence, can compete with it. Demon king sequence. Except for a small amount of brave sequence, that can devour and absorb some. Other sequences basically cannot touch the demon king sequence, that has been fighting against humans for thousands of years. But angel sequence is different. Humans can really master angel sequence. Although humans cannot breed angel sequence, let alone cultivate the ecology of angel sequence tree in the human world. But in human history, the belief in light has allowed those ancient gods to send down angel sequence. In some ancient war sites, some traces of angel sequence battles can also be seen. There are even some wreckage of angel sequence. Whether it is the angels who inherited the ancient gods' descent, or absorbing the wreckage of those angel sequences. As a high-ranking sequence, it will greatly supplement and enhance the low-ranking sequences. In particular, now that humans have entered the steam sequence era, they have become more and more aware of the power of the sequences developed by those ancient gods and the sequences cultivated by the gods with the ecology of the kingdom of God. No matter where it is, once something about angel sequence appears, it must be a very sensational thing. That's why the traces of angels in Lamore can be called a big secret. The secret is big, but whether it can be excavated is hard to say. But for Tucker at this time, Tucker felt that he seemed to be about to dig out the secret of the angel. As Tucker reached a sufficient depth, buzz! A sacred and bright power mixed with a power that Tucker had never felt before permeated Tucker's perception. Then, the broken power that made Tucker a little frightened suddenly emerged in the veins. Bang! 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 Tucker sensed the veins, and under the infiltration of the mysterious power, it broke inch by inch. Even the broken power was flowing down along the veins of the world that Tucker perceived. The weird and bizarre terrifying power was going to kill along the network cable of the veins. Tucker accurately felt that the broken power was aimed at himself. If he didn't make a decision, he would suffer the consequences. Tucker raised his hand and the knife fell. Swish! The veins that were stained with the bizarre power were directly cut off. Looking around, Tucker tied the cut veins directly to the metal railing under the handrail in front of him. Not long after, the mysterious and strange, but slow breaking force extended down. Although it was only so weak, Tucker could not feel the abnormal level at all if he did not use the precise world to see it. But when the strange power fell on the railing, swish! As soon as the extremely slight tearing sound sounded, it disappeared in the cold wind on the balcony. Tucker looked at Carlos behind him. Carlos closed his eyes and said calmly, "I just want to practice now." As an assassin, Carlos did not notice this slight movement. Tucker retracted his gaze and slightly touched the metal railing that was almost fine. On the surface, there seemed to be no problem. But in fact, an extremely precise cut had been completed, and the metal railing had been broken in the middle, coexisting with the angel sequence. Tucker raised his head and looked at the faint source of light that no one else could see. "Even if I just took a look, it's not even accurate to describe it as looking. I will suffer as a result." What kind of power is this? Some kind of untouchable, indescribable power. Chapter 75 Steam Resonance. Deep in the extraordinary world, there are many mysterious powers that cannot be explained in words. Sometimes, just because of a second glance, one will suffer the horrific blow of endless sinking and destruction of life. Some people even joked, extraordinary people don't need vision, because it will be safer. And now, Tucker obviously encountered a similar power. The cold wind from the tower blew fiercely. When it fell on Tucker's wizard robe shield, the wind was weakened a lot, and it was still cold on Tucker's cheek, but at this time Tucker's mood was unprecedentedly hot. That glimpse just now, although I didn't see much, I also gained something. The dimension there is very deep, and it belongs to a specific light dimension, belonging to a layer of virtual and real states that can be perceived but difficult to reach. The light is scattered into several positions. It should not be an angel, but more like a part of an angel. The overall situation may be that a part of the angel is fighting against a destructive force in a certain high dimension of light. After having a general guess in his heart, Tucker looked at the almost imperceptible light again. But at this time, the light disappeared. The situation of this kind of angel light power infiltration is not stable. Sometimes it will be here, and sometimes it will be there. Others can't find these weak lights, and it's basically impossible to explore deeper secrets. Tucker, who was concentrating his mind, began to look for the next group of light. Soon, a group of light appeared slightly, and Tucker immediately locked it and traced the light. The light group will appear randomly, but when I lock on this group of light, it can be initially stabilized. While thinking, Tucker explored the depths of the light dimension again. With the experience of the last time. This time, when approaching the node, Tucker did not rush in. Instead, he felt it carefully beside it. Light power, and it is extremely rich holy light power. The core characteristics of the holy light power are obviously the angel sequence. In addition to the light and angel sequence, there is also the crushing power that competes with the light power. Those powers seem to want to completely crush the light and angel sequence. Tucker felt it meticulously. After staying for a long time, at this last position, Tucker confirmed that he could not feel more information. Tucker followed the veins and suddenly followed a dimension of light, escaping into the light closest to him. As expected, as soon as Tucker entered the area, the broken power instantly entangled him. Before Tucker's veins were cut off, Tucker had already completed the contact with a ball of light and the body of the light, and activated a certain tactile perception ability. Is this metal? Some kind of blade? Or is it a feather blade? Angel's weapon? Or mechanical angel? Tucker was a little stunned, and the broken power began to spread along the veins. Tucker used the same trick again. Not long after, a metal piece as thick as a coin was cut out by the broken power. Tucker brought the metal piece in front of his eyes, and the cut surface was as smooth as a mirror. Even if Tucker used precise vision to see, he could not find a flaw. Cut off the enemy's head with such power. Before the pain reaches the brain, he is already dead. And only a very weak power is needed to do it. Take a deep breath and exhale slowly. At present, it seems that as soon as you enter there, you will be immediately entangled by the power of destruction. Secondly, is the angel part an angel weapon? But the blade doesn't look very sharp. Strictly speaking, it looks like it has no edge. Also, the angel sequence should not exist in the weapon. The feather blade of a mechanical angel. And it is a piece of the feather blade of a mechanical angel that has been cut off. Tucker gradually summed up the result. That metal feather blade seems to have life, containing the power of light and angel sequence. No wonder. Lord Aubrey here in Lamore said there is light, angel sequence, etc. Yes, but it seems a little different from what I imagined. Also, that terrifying and untouchable power is something I can't contend with at all. It can basically be confirmed that it is an angel of light, and Lamore is going to die. Tucker shook his head. That terrifying power. The strange and mysterious power that can kill along the net cable. Whoever wants to touch it can touch it. Anyway, Tucker will not provoke the terrible power. What? You want to touch it, but you can't? That's none of my business. Think about it carefully. Even think about strengthening your ability to correct the veins by adding points. But after careful speculation, Tucker shook his head. This is obviously a death sentence. Any struggle is in vain. Perhaps, Lamore doesn't have the life of an angel at all. The light is here, but it can never reach it. Tucker looked at the faint light and shook his head helplessly. If Tucker was an ordinary extraordinary wizard and discovered such a shocking secret, he would try his best to fight no matter what. Even touch the terrifying crushing power himself. Unfortunately, Tucker is not an ordinary extraordinary wizard. He doesn't do those dangerous operations. Tucker only needs to let the steady development system develop steadily over time, and it can become powerful. After all, the essence of the steady development system is like this. The slight regret of not being able to touch the angel mechanical feather blade stayed in Tucker's mind for a few seconds before being dispelled by Tucker. Continue my steam resonance. Tucker gradually gathered his mind. This steam tower is much better than the undead tower. In the undead tower, I can only resonate with a source energy steam engine that I don't know how many hands it has. Here, listening to the low roar of the source energy tower, my heart feels much stronger. It is simply a natural place for resonance. Tucker touched the extraordinary storage bracelet. The veins were connected to the steam core. The low and soothing steam source energy fluctuations of the steam tower were like the ebb and flow of the tide. Along with this rhythm, a part of the steam sequence power of Tucker's steam core was transformed into a steam sequence, slowly flowing into Tucker's wizard ecology along the touch of the spirit veins. And it settled in the core position of the tree trunk of the wizard ecology. Once the precipitation is completed, the steam furnace of the steam sequence is ignited. The seeds of the steam sequence will begin to sprout in Tucker's wizard ecology, and then replace Tucker's wizard tree and transform into a steam wizard tree. The entire wizard ecosystem will also become a steam wizard ecosystem. This change in essential form will deeply penetrate every corner of Tucker's entire life framework. Of course, the transformation of the steam sequence is still a long way from Tucker. After all, without external help, it takes a long time for Tucker to digest the steam core alone. As Tucker follows the rhythmic ups and downs of the steam tower and steadily digests the steam core, Tucker suddenly realizes something in his heart. It seems that those light balls are also fluctuating with the rhythm of the steam source energy of the steam tower. Those mechanical metal feather blades containing light, they are resonating. In an instant, Tucker felt a sense of enlightenment. The world presented by the veins and trajectories in front of him also became clear in an instant. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.